Chapter 1343. Miss Jean's talent is truly extraordinary. Li Yufeng also laughed. After that, they stepped out as well. Law energy circulated around Qin Wenin as he transformed into a bolt of destructive lightning, rushing towards a puppet. The Dark North Immortal Mountain opens once every 10 years. The vast majority of those who come here are those with confidence. Hence, their strength isn't weak. Bai Ming Nongyue spoke. Qin Wenin nodded lightly. Let's enter. Qin Wenin inclined his head and stared at the mountain before him. The law energy grew stronger and stronger. Formless law energy enveloped the entire space. He lifted his foot and continued walking up the mountain. Qin Wenin nodded and continued upwards. Before them, there was an ancient tree. The ancient tree was filled with law energy and there were fruits growing on it. These fruits were incomparably bright red, resembling flames. In that case, the strength of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom should be very strong. Qin Wenin mumbled to himself. Although he had come into contact with the major powers of the immortal realms, he only had a certain understanding of the major powers of the eastern regions. He wasn't very clear about how strong the major powers of the other regions were exactly. Some experts joined forces to attack the puppets. However, the puppets' formation was extremely marvelous, able to disperse the attacks of these people. In addition, when the light flashed, the shadow of the puppets would also appear. Drawing a prison. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Jean's heart was pure. She was fond of the four arts. The energy she was proficient in was actually so marvelous as well, combining with her hobbies. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Seems like I'm ignorant and inexperienced. Qin Wenin nodded lightly. Could it be that the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom established their empire by relying on this mountain? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. The destructive light directly penetrated through everything, slamming into the puppet. After that, he vanished from this space, passing through the formation in a tyrannical manner. Truly a wondrous place. I wonder how the Mountain of Laws was formed. Qin Wenin mumbled. As they continued forward, they finally arrived at the foot of a mountain. Li Yufeng laughed. If not, why do you think the people from the 100 Refinements sect and the Jadestige Immortal Palace are here? Not only so, there are also some disciples from other major powers mixed in with the crowd. Also, this isn't the only entrance to the Immortal Mountain. This entrance also isn't opened once every 10 years. This is only for us ordinary people. For those major characters, there aren't so many restrictions. The rules seem to be within reach. Jean mumbled. She stretched out her hand and felt it as she spoke in a light voice. This law energy is like the law domain of immortal kings and above, permeating the entire space. After the formation, it was the entrance to the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Jean was waiting there. When she saw Qin Wenin and Li Yufeng coming out one after another, she couldn't help but smile. She didn't wonder why Qin Wenin was so powerful. He was even praised by Bai Ming Nongyue and the 100 Refinements Saint Child as having a hard time finding an opponent at the same level as him. She couldn't imagine how strong he was. Qin Wenin didn't say thanks, but he accepted this favor. Stepping out, Qin Wenin and the others walked towards the formation. He then spoke to Jin. You go in first. Only to see everything in the surroundings of that sword crumbling apart. When it collided with the attack of the puppet, the innate technique unleashed by the puppet was directly shattered. The puppet glowed with resplendent light and once again unleashed a tyrannical attack, shattering the sword. However, Yin had an immortal brush in her hand. She drew a diagram which transformed into a prison that directly bound the puppet. If we can be like the Immortal Mountain, releasing such law energy, enveloping the entire space, forming a domain of our own, we would be able to use the law energy here to attack, defend, protect, transform it into innate techniques, forming a body of law. At that time, we would truly be at the Immortal King realm. Li Yufeng spoke in a low voice. Qin Wenin and the others stood at the back and watched. These puppets could unleash all sorts of attacks, and each of their attacks had the might of a peak-stage Immortal Foundation expert. They were incomparably tyrannical, capable of breaking through everything. You can't put it this way. After all, given our current level, there's no need for us to know so much. The depths of the Dark North Immortal Mountain is a place where even immortal emperors have no way to probe into. It's basically not a place we can enter. The name of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom isn't just for show. Also, do you know why the Dark North Immortal Mountain is located right beside the Immortal Dynasty? As the group of them advanced, the law energy here gradually grew stronger. Li Yufeng smiled at Qin Wenyan as he asked, "There seem to be many immortal caves in the mountain range. We can enter them for cultivation." Qin Wenyan ascended the mountain and saw many cultivation caves. Most probably, these caves were opened up by people of the past. Not only for them, many of those experts who entered the Dark North Immortal Mountain also came here, gradually moving up the mountain. Don't worry, Uncle Wan, Jin's cultivation base is also extraordinary. After entering the Dark North Immortal Mountain, no one would dare to antagonize her. Qin Wendian laughed. Jin and Princess Nongyue were drinking together. As long as one wasn't extremely audacious, who would dare to touch her? Awesome! Qin Wendian praised. The people of the Wan clan all misjudged her. Although Jin didn't like to fight and wouldn't intentionally display her strength, it didn't mean that she was weak. Right now, from the looks of things, just based on strength, she was much stronger than Wan Miaoyan. That puppet blasted out a violent attack, slamming into Qin Wenyan. However, Qin Wenyan's body glowed with a divine light, as though he had the body of a divinity. That attack directly shattered apart. Most probably, the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom had considered the fact that this place was the boundary of the Dark North Immortal Mountain. If one got any closer, they would be affected by the law energy. However, there were some extremely powerful characters who had comprehended Immortal King might. They could directly unleash powerful law attacks, penetrating through the puppet formation. Let's go! The group of them continued forward, entering the Dark North Immortal Mountain region. Before them, a majestic mountain range could be seen, bathed in boundless immortal light. Although the Immortal Mountain range was still very far away from them, they could already sense the law energy descending upon them. Right. Jin replied softly. After that, she stepped out as her aura gushed forth. Her entire body was enveloped by law energy as a gigantic painting appeared. She pointed out with her finger and an instant later, a sword manifested from the painting. The sound of space tearing apart could be heard as it slashed out. Jin moved together with the sword. Michim. However, as expected of experts from the various powers of the Dark North Immortal Dynasty. There are many powerful people here and many of them have already broken through the formation and entered the Immortal Mountain. Qin Wendian laughed. Naturally. If not, how would they be able to protect this sacred ground? Naturally, even the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom wouldn't forbid experts from the various peak powers from entering the Immortal Mountain. If not, they would surely incur the wrath of the masses. Li Yufeng spoke. When the puppet array opened, countless experts began to attack it. In just a short moment, a shocking collision broke out in front of them. All right, this mysterious sacred ground is about to appear before us. I'm filled with anticipation. Sadly, I can't go too deep with my current cultivation base or I might never be able to exit it. As Li Yufeng and the others advanced, they could already sense the law energy from the Immortal Mountain getting stronger and stronger. The law energy was formless and formless. It seemed to exist everywhere. Wenin, I will have to trouble you to take care of Jin. Wan Zhuqing spoke. I will take care of Mr. Wan. After you guys exit the Immortal Mountain, please come to my royal palace. Baiming Nongyue spoke in a light voice. The fruits of law are the fruits of law nurtured by the Dark North Immortal Mountain Range. There are also many rare and precious herbs in this mountain range. There are also many unknown secrets in that mysterious place where no one can enter. Li Yufeng spoke. Qin Wenyan was filled with curiosity towards the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Brother Qin, how much do you understand about this Immortal Mountain Range? Li Yufeng asked. The law energy of the Immortal Mountain Range is everywhere. One can cultivate anywhere. It's just that I don't wish to be disturbed by others, hence, I chose to head to the Immortal Cave. Li Yufeng spoke. Naturally, There are some miraculous immortal caves where the law energy would gather together, transforming into an extremely powerful law energy. This formation is truly miraculous. Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice. As expected, this is only a one-sided view. This immortal mountain range isn't only suitable for the person Brother Qin spoke of. In truth, it's even suitable for immortal emperors to cultivate. Even for immortal emperors, they wouldn't be able to see the complete picture of this mountain range. What we are seeing now is merely the periphery of the immortal mountain range. And the dark north immortal mountain, which the vast majority of people speak of, is merely the periphery. However, many major powers of the northern regions all understand how terrifying this mountain range is. This mountain is the first immortal mountain in the entrance. It's rumored that for people at our cultivation level, only this mountain is suitable for cultivation. This is also the reason why Nongyue said that there's a limit to this area. If you step past this area, your life would be in danger. This is a forbidden ground and there are some extremely powerful experts guarding it. Li Yufeng reminded. I specially invited a formation grandmaster to create this for the sake of this test. Baiming Nongyue replied. The Dark North Immortal Mountain was also known as the Immortal Mountain of Laws. I only know that this mountain range is extremely suitable for peak-level Immortal Foundation experts as well as initial-stage Immortal Kings. Qin Wendian spoke. Terrifying sharp swords continuously appeared from the scroll, whistling through the air. Terrifying sonic booms could be heard as they pierced through, destroying everything in their path. With a loud poochie sound, the puppet seemed to have turned into nothingness. Jin's figure was like a bolt of lightning, directly passing through the formation. Brother Qin, Fairy Jadestitch, let's go. Li Yufeng laughed. After that, the group of them moved forward. Baiming Nongyue didn't follow. She was the host of this test and naturally had to stay behind. In addition, if she wanted to enter the Dark North Immortal Mountain, she could do so at any time. The Dark North Immortal Mountain is a sacred ground nurtured by the heavens and earth. Long before the rise of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, it was already under the control of an extremely powerful power. After that, the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom rose up and unified the boundless regions. The royal palace was built beside the Dark North Immortal Mountain to better control it. Li Yufeng laughed. Chapter 1344. Can I eat it? Qin Wendian smiled. Naturally. This is especially so for experts with law attributes. If they consume the fruits, it would be extremely beneficial to their comprehension. Li Yufeng replied. Qin Wendian's silhouette flashed as he moved towards the fruit tree. He directly stretched his hand out, wanting to pluck one of the fruits. However, at this moment, a terrifying surge of fire law energy gushed forth, gushing up his finger. Qin Wendian felt as though he was struck by lightning. His silhouette flickered as he retreated. However, his robes were instantly incinerated as the destructive fire law energy gushed into his body. I haven't finished speaking. If you can eat it. Li Yufeng spoke in a low voice as a strange smile appeared on his face. Qin Wendian speechlessly shook his head. I was tricked by you. However, I should have thought of this. Since this is a fruit born from the Mountain of Laws, it must have gathered boundless law energy before it could bloom and bear fruit. Naturally, it would also contain extremely powerful law energy. It shouldn't be a problem for me to harvest it, but it won't be so easy to eat it. Yeah, if you recklessly swallow the fruit, you might die. Li Yufeng nodded. Qin Wendian nodded lightly. He walked past the fruit tree and continued on his way up the mountain. You are going to miss it just like that? Li Yufeng felt somewhat bewildered, staring at Qin Wendian's back. Although this fruit is precious, it's useless to me. Why should I waste my effort on it? I might as well leave it for those who need it. Qin Wendian calmly spoke. Li Yufeng laughed. What an interesting fellow. Before the fruit tree, many people would even act to snatch it. Qin Wendian was truly calm. It wasn't that Qin Wendian was unmoved by the treasures. It was just that he had just ascended the mountain. The Dark North Immortal Mountain was incomparably mysterious and boundlessly vast. The mountain Baiming Nongyue pointed out was merely the outer region. In that case, there would surely be many more marvelous things ahead. As he ascended the mountain step by step, the power of rules was everywhere. Qin Wenyin felt it quietly as he strolled on the celestial mountain, comprehending the formless rules of heaven and earth. Above his body, the power of rules emanated, as if it wanted to merge with the rules of heaven and earth. For Immortal Foundation experts, they have already come into contact with law energy. Although they could unleash law energy, there was still a qualitative difference between them and immortal kings. The usage of law energy by immortal kings was no longer limited to the law energy released from their immortal foundations. They could form a body of laws and create a law domain with a single thought. This was a qualitative change. It was easy to change quantity, but it was hard to change quality. Hence, it was unknown how many geniuses had no way to cross this threshold. Qin Wenyin has already taken an extremely important step. He had 1 foot in front of the gate to the Immortal King realm. But if he wanted to completely cross over, it was still extremely difficult. The Immortal Foundation was formed from the inside out. It was the Immortal Foundation that released laws and energy. Immortal kings were able to fuse their internal and external laws together and could already form their own law domain. If I can be like the Dark North Immortal Mountain, causing the surroundings to be filled with boundless law energy, there's no doubt that I would be able to break through to the Immortal King realm. Qin Wenyin mumbled. However, he had no way to find the opportunity to do so. Finally, Qin Wenyin stood at the peak of this immortal mountain. His gaze turned to the surroundings. This mountain range was extremely vast, and there were many experts here. Some of them sat cross-legged in cultivation, some continued to advance, and some were searching for treasures similar to the law fruit tree. Li Yufeng Xin, this time around, the reason we came to the Dark North Immortal Mountain is to search for an opportunity to break through. There's no need for us to travel together. Qin Wenyin spoke to the two of them. I think so too. Everyone's opportunity is different and my cultivation base hasn't reached the required level yet. Since I came here, I should first find a cave to cultivate in. Li Yufeng spoke in a carefree manner. You go ahead, I will take a look around. Jin smiled at Qin Wenyin. If there's anything, inform me immediately. Qin Wenyin spoke. Okay. Jin smiled. Qin Wenyin nodded to the two of them. After that he stepped out, walking on his own path. The path of cultivation ultimately had to be walked by oneself. This was especially so when one is stuck at a bottleneck. No one would be able to help you. No matter how strong a power is, they would at most be able to provide heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures for you to better comprehend. But ultimately, whether or not you can take that final step, you still have to depend on yourself. Li Yufeng nodded to Jin. He turned and left alone, leaving in a carefree manner. Just like what he said, he needed to find a cave to cultivate in. Jin stared at the back view of Qin Wenyin as a smile appeared on her face. She sat down on the ground and with a wave of her hand, an ancient zither appeared. She actually started to play the zither on the immortal mountain, causing melodious music to ring out. In this desolate immortal mountain, it was like there was only her and her zither music. This zither music was to bid farewell to Qin Wenyin. He didn't turn his head back, he continued walking forward step by step, with no destination in mind. He was quietly immersed in his thoughts. He was different from Li Yufeng. His cultivation base has already reached the Immortal King realm and has long taken that extremely important step. Although his insights weren't profound enough, it didn't matter. As long as the opportunity was right, he would be able to directly step over and ascend to the Immortal King realm. This realm was known as the Immortal King realm. Immortal kings and immortal emperors were all at this realm. The cultivation realms of stellar martial cultivators were differentiated by their astral souls and the constellations they condensed. Immortal kings and immortal emperors belonged to this realm. It's just that the people of the immortal realms divided this realm into immortal kings and immortal emperors. Breaking through the Immortal King realm and becoming an immortal emperor was the Supreme King realm. In the entire immortal realms, Wu Xiu knew the importance of this realm. Qin Wenyin naturally understood as well. As long as he could step over this realm, he would be an immortal king, standing on the same level as immortal emperors. As long as one reached a certain realm, distance would no longer be something that couldn't be reached. It would be something that could be seen and touched. After stepping over this threshold, one would be considered a true expert of the immortal realms, standing at the upper echelons of the immortal realms. And precisely because of the importance of this realm, Qin Wenyan was filled with anticipation and thirst for the immortal king realm. But he understood that at this moment, he mustn't be impatient. He had to be calm and comprehend the laws of this world. Qin Wenyan walked forward step by step. He walked very slowly, sensing the strength of the laws in every corner, sensing their existence. His eyes were closed, not allowing his vision to disturb him as he used his heart to comprehend. After walking past one mountain after another, he encountered an ancient law tree. Although its fruits were plucked, he still sat under the tree and sensed it. After a long time, he stood up again and left. He passed by a strange-looking stone. This stone was incomparably gigantic and stood on the peak of a mountain. There was an ancient word engraved on it, King. Within the ancient word, boundless law energy gushed forth, wanting to rush into one's body. He sat down before the ancient word and quietly sensed it. Only after many days did he stand up and leave. Qin Wenyan continued walking. He encountered another icy waterfall. The waterfall that cascaded down from the peak of the mountain was actually sealed in ice. It was an extremely majestic sight. The entire region was filled with ice pillars, and even the air seemed to have frozen. This was a world of ice. When he neared there, Qin Wenyan felt that he was about to be sealed in ice as well. Even his internal organs were being corroded by the power of ice. However, he still continued to unleash his law energy and walked towards this region until he reached the limit of what he could endure. He simply stood there quietly and very swiftly. His entire person was enveloped by the ice and turned into a human-shaped ice sculpture. After many days, the sound of something shattering rang out. Qin Wenyan broke through the ice and directly left, without any reluctance. Qin Wenyan walked very slowly, comprehending the law energy of each mountain in this mountain range. He didn't avoid a single place and wanted to walk through this entire mountain range. Today, he passed by the mountain range with the law of gravity and found it hard to even lift his feet. Every step he took was incomparably arduous and his body felt like it was about to collapse. But he still walked with great difficulty, constantly lifting his feet with great difficulty. He didn't take a detour. His internal organs also seemed to be under the terrifying pressure of gravity, and it was extremely uncomfortable. After several months, he finally walked past this immortal mountain that had the law of gravity. But this wasn't the most terrifying thing. One day, he arrived at an immortal mountain that had the laws of corrosion. That immortal mountain seemed to want to corrode his body. When he passed by this mountain, he didn't know how much pain he had to endure and how many times his vitality had to be restored. In fact, he even had the thought of giving up halfway through. However, he still relied on his extremely tenacious will to continue on. Day after day, Qin Wenyan was like an ascetic monk. His robes were tattered and his long hair fluttered in the wind, appearing somewhat sloppy. However, it was as though he didn't notice this at all. He continued on his way until one day, he had passed through every single immortal mountain in this mountain range. But because Qin Wenyan kept on moving, not many people noticed Qin Wenyan's cultivation method. His good friend, Tin, was even more eye-catching. Because from the moment he entered the immortal mountain, she had always been there, playing her zither and painting. She had never moved a single step. Her paintings seemed to want to depict the entire immortal mountain, as well as the formless law energy within. It has already been over a year since Qin Wenyan entered the immortal mountain. The time limit for entering the immortal mountain was 3 years. Once the 3 years are up, the people of the Dark North Immortal Mountain would have to leave. 7 years later, the next batch of experts would enter. Naturally, if there were people who found an opportunity to break through to the Immortal King realm and entered a wondrous meditative state, the guards of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom wouldn't forcefully chase them away. They would allow them to continue cultivating and wouldn't waste this opportunity. Today, the tattered Qin Wenyan arrived at the boundary of the Immortal Mountain Range. As to why it was called the boundary, it was because there seemed to be a formless energy barrier before him. It was rumored that this place was the forbidden ground of this immortal mountain range. Once one stepped into this forbidden ground, only death awaited them. There would be no way for them to return alive. Hence, although there were many people around Qin Wendian right now, none of them dared to enter. Do you guys understand this forbidden ground? Qin Wendian asked in a light voice. Everyone shook their heads. One of them glanced at Qin Wendian and spoke. Although I don't understand it, it's a true forbidden ground. Before this, there was a person who went there, and when he returned, only half his body was left, but he was still breathing. After that, he was dragged away by a gray shadow. We couldn't even see what that shadow was. Chapter 1345. Forbidden Ground. Qin Wendian stared ahead, at the boundless, desolate mountain range. That place should be the true Dark North Immortal Mountain, right? Outside the barrier, there were many extremely powerful experts standing guard there. One of them spoke. The area ahead is the Forbidden Ground. Those who enter will die for sure. If you guys want to enter, you will have to bear the consequences. Since these people have already entered the Dark North Immortal Mountain, even the guards of the dynasty would give them the right to choose. They wouldn't obstruct them from entering. Naturally, leaving aside Immortal Foundation experts, even for those who just entered the Immortal King realm, they wouldn't dare to enter the Forbidden Ground. It was simply too dangerous. As guards of this place, no one was clearer than them on how terrifying this Forbidden Ground was. Qin Wendian's eyes flashed as he felt some hesitation in his heart. The Forbidden Grounds were naturally extremely dangerous. This point was already known from Li Yufeng's words earlier. Even immortal kings wouldn't dare to venture too deep into this place. Even immortal emperors wouldn't be able to see through the secrets within. Up until now, I've already roamed the entire area, but I still have no way to find an opportunity to break through to the Immortal King realm. If this continues, I might not be able to find one even after tens or even hundreds of years. Since I came out to temper myself, I can only give it a try. Qin Wendian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as a look of resolution flashed in his eyes. Is there anyone who is willing to enter the Forbidden Ground? Let's see if there's any danger. At the very least, there's still time to retreat. Someone spoke. The eyes of everyone gleamed with sharpness. Those who dared to stay here were all extremely powerful geniuses. If not, they wouldn't have dared to covet the Forbidden Ground. As the sound of this voice faded, the eyes of many gleamed with sharpness. In their hearts, they all had the same thought. It's just that they didn't dare to make a decision. But now, the words of this person caused their hearts to be more resolute. Another person spoke. Cultivators all know that it's extremely difficult to break through to the Immortal King realm. Since we came here, most probably, we have already stepped through the gate, but we still can't break through to the Immortal King realm. Although it's just a single step, there's a possibility that we might never be able to break through to the Immortal King realm. That's right, this old man has already reached this level 1,800 years ago. I've also come to the Dark North Immortal Mountain many times, but I'm still stuck at this level, unable to take that final step. A skinny old man also spoke. He wore a conical bamboo hat and looked extremely ordinary. He didn't exude any aura, but in truth, he had already been stuck at the peak of Immortal Foundation for many years. During these years, his state of heart was already somewhat unstable. Right now, he only had a single goal, and that was to break through. If he took another step forward, it was very likely that he would be stuck in this realm for the rest of his life. He needed to take a risk. Yeah, the Forbidden Ground is incomparably dangerous, but it's also rumored that there's plenty of good fortune there as well. It's said that there was someone who attained enlightenment in the Forbidden Ground and became a supreme genius. From then on, his cultivation soared up to the clouds, becoming a peak-level expert in the immortal realms. Someone solemnly spoke, as though wanting to strengthen the determination of everyone. Facing the Forbidden Grounds, even for those with great courage, their will would still be shaky. After all, this was a matter of life and death. Although the path of the strong was the lifelong pursuit of stellar martial cultivators, if they lost their lives, everything would be meaningless. Let's go. A person spoke as he stepped out, crossing the boundary and entering the Forbidden Ground. Everyone, let's go together. Another person followed after him. Gradually, the others also started to move forward. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He also followed the others and entered the forbidden ground. For those who were hesitating when they saw that all the experts had entered, including a character like Qin Wentian, they decided to follow as well. Bai Mingnongyue and Li Yufeng both said that Qin Wentian was a peak-level genius in the immortal realms. Even if he didn't enter the forbidden ground, he would still be able to break through to the immortal king realm in the future. But since he still chose to enter, what qualifications did they have to not take the risk? Those guards closed their eyes as though this was an extremely ordinary matter. Every time the Dark North Immortal Mountain opened, there would be no lack of people like this. But who among them would be able to come out alive? Their courage was praiseworthy, but if they didn't have the strength to back up their courage, only death would await them. After Qin Wentian entered the forbidden ground, he discovered that there was actually no law energy here. In fact, this place was even more desolate and desolate. There was no sound at all. Everyone's footsteps were very slow. They all thought that if they encountered any unforeseen events, they would immediately retreat. However, as they moved forward, they discovered that there was actually no danger at all. Thus, they continued to move forward in this barren land with an incomparably cautious attitude. The road has disappeared. At this moment, a person suddenly trembled as he shouted. Many people glanced over only to see that person turning his head and staring at the direction they came from. His countenance was pale. The eyes of everyone flashed as they turned their heads back. That place actually changed. At this moment, they no longer came out from the boundary. Instead, they were in a desolate mountain range with no end in sight. What should we do? A person asked with a pale face. The bodies of many people trembled. A voice then rang out, "Why are you panicking? Since we are already here, let's continue forward. Our purpose is to search for an opportunity to become an immortal king, not to flee back. If not, why would we even come here?" This voice caused the hearts of many to calm down. After that, all of them took out their divine weapons. The demon's sword appeared in Qin Wentian's hand. Could it be an illusion? The faces of everyone paled. They could only brace themselves and continue forward. Luckily, they didn't encounter any danger and their hearts gradually calmed down. It's just that the atmosphere of nervousness in their hearts was still present. Bzz. From afar, the sound of a phoenix suddenly rang out. In the vast sky, a gray silhouette appeared. It was like a terrifying bolt of lightning, hard to see clearly. What a terrifying speed! The hearts of everyone trembled as they released their auras. But at this moment, that gray silhouette abruptly swooped down towards them, transforming into a beam of terrifying gray light. Careful! Everyone instantly dodged in all directions. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with a terrifying light. He saw that the gray silhouette was actually a demonic beast he had never seen before. Its eyes were completely white, as though it was blind, exuding a sinister feeling. Its speed was so fast that everyone frantically retreated. Pooh! The person who shouted the word, "careful," earlier was instantly turned into a bloody mess, torn apart by the terrifying claws. That gray silhouette instantly soared up into the sky, spiraling in the air. Everyone attacked together. Another voice rang out. As the sound of that person's voice faded, that terrifying demonic beast directly lunged towards him. That expert's countenance drastically changed as he slashed out with a fearsome saber light. However, the demonic beast that swooped down directly ignored the saber light and penetrated through it. A crisp sound rang out as blood splattered everywhere. That expert's skull was directly shattered into pieces. When the others saw this scene, they all frantically fled. This demonic beast was simply unstoppable. It was too terrifying. It could actually ignore such a tyrannical attack. After killing one person, the demonic beast continued spiraling in the air, as though it was searching for prey. All of a sudden, its body moved again, and a person who was slower in escaping was directly torn apart and killed. At this moment, everyone's hearts were like dead ashes. Forbidden ground, forbidden ground. Why did they have to step into such a place? This was simply courting death. Why did we enter the forbidden ground? One person was filled with reluctance, he didn't want to die here. But as the sound of his voice faded, that demonic beast directly rushed towards him. He was so frightened that his legs trembled. He turned around to attack, but it was completely useless. Are we really going to die here? The hearts of many people were filled with sorrow. At this moment, the old man wearing the bamboo hat suddenly laid on the ground, not moving at all. Even his aura had been completely retracted. Does he want to die? Everyone passed by him, not stopping at all. The demonic beast continued to hunt, but it actually whizzed past the old man, not killing the old man who was lying on the ground. Qin Wentian's immortal sense noticed this scene. He instantly kept the demon's sword as he continued forward, after which he abruptly fell to the ground and retracted his aura. Arg! A scream of misery rang out. That demonic beast killed another person and flew past Qin Wentian again. That demonic beast is blind. A thought appeared in the hearts of everyone. They also came to their senses, and in the blink of an eye, all of them kept their divine weapons and retracted their auras, lying on the ground and pretending to be dead. A strong gust of wind blew past, and the eagle flew above everyone. Then, it spiraled up into the sky and left the area. But even so, everyone still lay on the ground motionlessly. Only after a long time did some people crawl up, their hearts still trembling with fear. Let's leave this place quickly. He spoke as his silhouette flickered and continued on his way. Everyone stood up and moved forward, not daring to stay in this area for long. They continued on their way. All of a sudden, a figure appeared in front of them. This figure was clad in white and had a slender sword in his hand. His back was facing the others. "Senior!" Someone exclaimed in joy. They actually saw someone here. Undoubtedly, this person was an extremely powerful character. And just as the sound of his voice faded, the figure in front of them slowly turned around. After which, everyone felt a bone-chilling coldness. This person had an extraordinary physique, but his eyes were bleeding. The blood seemed to have dried up, and his pupils looked like they were about to seep out, exuding a sinister and terrifying aura. Bzz. The speed of this white figure was extremely fast, even faster compared to the demonic beast earlier. As the sword slashed down, the head of the person who spoke flew into the air. Everyone drew in a breath of cold air as their hearts turned cold. They felt as though doomsday had arrived. Forbidden grounds weren't a place they could enter. Gusts of whistling wind drifted over. At the foot of the mountain, numerous figures could be seen flying over. There were humans and demons, but the auras they exuded were cold to the extreme, as though they were corpses. This is the same as the demonic beast earlier. Qin Wentian also felt his entire body turning cold. This place was simply a land of death. Chapter 1346. Qin Wentian held his breath, not daring to make a single sound. He also completely retracted his aura. These humans and demonic beasts basically didn't have any vitality at all. They were like corpses, yet they knew how to kill. The others were all experienced as well. All of them held their breaths, not daring to make a single sound. At this instant, the entire space was so silent that it was terrifying. In the desolate mountain range, a cold wind gusted by. Was this forbidden ground really still a part of the immortal Law Mountain? This place was simply a mountain of death. Hoochie! A light sound rang out, the wind fluttered the robes, and in this silent space, it was extremely ear-piercing. Numerous silhouettes turned around, and the person who made the sound was as pale as a sheet of paper. Bzz. A raging wind gusted by. A gray shadow with towering corrosive might instantly sped past. In just an instant, the person who made the sound directly turned into corpse chi and vanished from sight. Those who were near him all felt their hearts trembling. One of them even let out an extremely soft sound. Boom! A terrifying thunderclap rang out. The terrifying might of the thunder directly blasted a terrifying hole in the mountain range. In the air, a purple-winged demonic beast that was bathed in boundless thunder and lightning released a fatal strike. Another stretch of deathly silence. Those corpses quietly waited in various directions. To the spectators, This was akin to a god of death. One of the experts trembled slightly, only to see a silhouette slowly turning around, facing him. All of you won't be able to survive. All of you won't be able to survive. That person roared as he rushed up into the air. Several destructive attacks rained down at the same time, directly turning him into dust. It was simply a miserable sight. Those who were still alive all had cold sweat on their foreheads. However, they still held their breaths, not daring to make a single sound. Their eyes were filled with terror and despair. Naturally, there were also some who closed their eyes, not daring to look. They only hoped that these death gods would leave by themselves. However, these figures didn't seem to have any intentions of leaving at all. Qin Wendian closed his eyes tightly. For him, this was also a dead end. No matter how strong he was, no matter how powerful he was, once he was discovered, these grim reapers would attack him at the same time and he would die without a doubt. He knew that these humans and demonic beasts were all terrifying characters when they were alive. They were all extremely powerful immortal kings. But now they were reduced to death gods. He came here because he wanted to break through to the immortal king realm, not to die. He didn't want to die. However, how could such a situation be resolved? Make a sound. Make a sound and we'll be able to lure them away. Qin Wendian thought to himself. If he could move, he could easily make a noise in other directions. But if he wanted to make a noise in other directions, he had to move first. Once he moved, he would die. He could use his own ability and directly emit a sound from afar. However, at the Immortal Foundation realm, energy had to be channeled from the inside out. Firstly, he had to release his own aura. If that was the case, he would still die. Given the current situation, he couldn't release any aura at all. Immortal King's ability, only immortal kings can save themselves. A thought flashed in Qin Wendian's heart, an incomparably intense desire to live. Another miserable scream rang out. Qin Wendian's entire body was drenched in sweat. If this continued on, all of them would die. None of them would be able to survive. The intense nervousness caused Qin Wendian to sink into a state of emptiness. Absolute silence. It was like everything in this world had stopped. The wind gusted by him. He could see the direction of the wind, and could sense the rhythm of the wind. He could even faintly see the runic patterns of the wind. Law is the Tao of heaven and earth. This world itself has its own Tao, it has its own language. Only by understanding this language would one be able to truly control this Tao, the Tao of law. A voice rang out in Qin Wendian's heart. Wind was the origin attribute of heaven and earth, existing in all corners of the world. It wasn't the same as suppression and destruction attributes, needing astral souls to imbue it. I want to see the law language of the wind through the trajectory of the wind, the runic patterns of the wind. Qin Wendian silently mused. Back then in the Heavenly Talisman realm, he was enlightened by the Heavenly Talisman treasured tome and gained his own understanding of cultivation. He was currently trying to use his own method to come into contact with the Immortal King realm. Every Immortal King would have different insights when they broke through. They would use different methods to break through to the Immortal King realm. Qin Wendian would also have his own method. Naturally, the prerequisite was that he was able to take this step first. The heavens and earth were silent. Qin Wendian had forgotten everything else. He quietly immersed himself in sensing the heavens and earth, and at this instant his senses grew even sharper, entering a state that he had never been able to reach before. How high a stellar martial cultivator's accomplishments could be was directly related to what kind of changes they would undergo when faced with a life and death crisis. No one would be able to walk the path of the strong without facing a life and death crisis. And at times like this, it would always be a test of one's will. No matter how strong one's will is, when the god of death descends upon them, their will might still crumble. They would panic, fear, and their senses would turn sluggish. Hence, the ending might very well be death. There was another type of person. The more dangerous the situation was, the more their potential would be stimulated. When a person was forced into a corner, the incomparably intense will to live would cause them to erupt forth with strength that transcended their past. Because they knew that if they didn't step over, they would only be walking on the path of death. In the face of life and death, humans would naturally walk towards these two extremes. And clearly, there were even fewer people like this. Qin Wenyin was precisely this type of person. In the external world, another two people were killed. Those god of death seemed to have set their sights on this area. As long as there was any movement, they would immediately act. Everyone was panicking, they didn't even know how these monsters were born. Time passed by so slowly. At this moment, Qin Wenyin seemed to have forgotten everything in the external world. Right now, no matter how nervous or afraid he was, it was useless. He wanted to live. If he wanted to live, he had to comprehend. His perception was pushed to the extreme. The runes of the Great Tao in the air, as well as the natural laws of the Great Tao, wanted to imprint themselves into his mind. He tried to communicate with them using his immortal sense. Immortal sense was the only thing that could prevent his aura from leaving his body. Another person let out an extremely faint sound. In an instant, the death gods turned to look at him. That person's face was as pale as paper, filled with boundless terror. Despair could be seen on his face, and it was as though the entire world had stopped moving. Boom! At this moment, an intense sound rang out from afar. The aura of heaven and earth fluctuated, gushing towards the distance. After that, those figures abruptly dashed out like bolts of lightning. Numerous destructive attacks were unleashed at the same time, blasting towards the fluctuations of the aura. However, when the destructive attacks landed, the fluctuations of the aura were still there, speeding towards the distance. Those god of death chased after them. This scene caused the person who was in despair earlier to be dumbfounded. He only felt that his life had been spared. Those figures flew further and further away. At this instant, everyone felt that they had been saved from the jaws of death. A cold wind gusted by, and these powerful characters actually felt the coldness boring into their bodies. It was extremely cold, and their bodies were all covered in cold sweat. Qin Wenyin opened his eyes, gleaming with a dazzling light. He was one step closer to surviving a calamity. With a flash of his silhouette, Qin Wenyin sped away with lightning speed. In front of him, there was a valley, as well as a mountain range in the distance. Everyone continued forward, traversing through the valley. On the way, they encountered many god of death figures. Qin Wenyin led them away, causing many people to stare at Qin Wenyin in bewilderment. This fellow seemed to have become stronger. He seemed to have comprehended something and was getting closer and closer to the immortal king realm. He was getting closer and closer to the immortal king realm. This valley was extremely vast, and the colors were incomparably beautiful. Numerous mysterious flowers bloomed in the valley, emitting a fragrance that was filled with an extremely dense life force. What flowers are these? Someone halted his steps, moving closer to the sea of flowers. There should be many treasures in this valley. Could these beautiful flowers be heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures as well? The aura of heaven and earth fluctuated. Qin Wenyian's countenance flickered as he hurriedly retreated. Only to see that space fluctuating, the sea of flames suddenly grew taller and taller. Swishing sounds rang out unceasingly as it actually transformed into a terrifying sea of flowers domain, engulfing everything. That expert's countenance changed. He soared up into the air, but the speed of the growing flowers was even faster than his speed. He was directly enveloped within the petals, and an instant later, one of the flowers grew even more beautiful. When the petals opened up, only an ice-cold corpse was left behind. The others hurriedly fled for their lives, but there was still a sea of flowers that soared upwards. When the petals opened and closed, there was no longer any sense of beauty, only a blood-colored demonic feeling. "Save me!" Another scream rang out, as that person was engulfed by the sea of flowers. The others were so frightened that their guts were about to explode. Qin Wenyin directly took out the demon sword and slashed it towards the sea of flowers. The shadow of a terrifying great rock appeared, slashing apart the flowers. Qin Wenyin soared upwards once more as the demon sword expanded to 100 meters in size, slashing downwards. The other experts all took out their divine weapons as they madly fled for their lives. Finally, another few of them died. Qin Wenyin left the Valley of the Sea of Flowers and came to another mountain range. A few more people descended, and there were only 5 of them left. The other experts had all died in the forbidden ground. The 4 of them floated in the air, staring at the boundless mountain range before them. Their countenances were like dead ashes as despair filled their hearts. I can't survive at all. One of them was in a state of madness. He felt that he would die for sure. It was impossible for him to walk out of the forbidden ground alive. Qin Wenyin glanced at the horizons as a sense of helplessness appeared in his heart. In the depths of this forbidden ground, the strength of experts like them was so insignificant. Chapter 1347. The 5 who survived were filled with despair and confusion. One of them had the weakest willpower and kept repeating that he wouldn't be able to survive. Clearly, his willpower was on the verge of collapse. What should we do? Someone asked. His gaze turned to Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin was the strongest among them. Moreover, the princess and the saint both valued him greatly. Naturally, he was the most extraordinary. Before this, when they were facing those slaughtering death gods, someone lured them away. Later on, when they passed through the canyon, they found out that that person was Qin Wenyin. His cultivation level was also the highest among the 5. Let's continue. What's the use of constantly thinking that we won't be able to survive? If we really feel despair, we can just directly commit suicide. If we still want to live, even if there's only a sliver of hope, we have to continue. Qin Wenyin spoke in a low voice. He himself wasn't confident, but he had no other choice. No one wanted to face such a situation. However, since they had entered the Forbidden Land, they had to be prepared. They might encounter the threat of death. Since they had already come to this point, they could only brace themselves and continue forward. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wenyin continued forward. The others followed after him. Qin Wenyin was right. What's the use of thinking that we won't be able to survive? Are we going to commit suicide here? If we don't want to commit suicide, we can only continue forward. The person who kept repeating that he wouldn't be able to survive was stunned. He gritted his teeth and followed after Qin Wenyin. Only when they truly entered the Forbidden Land did they realize how vast it was. The desolate land seemed to have no end. Fortunately, they didn't encounter that kind of despair again. After walking through one desolate mountain after another, Qin Wenyin sensed the flow of energy in the world. He faintly felt that there seemed to be something more here compared to the outside world, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. No, I can't bear it anymore. I have to travel from the sky. I have to keep moving in one direction. I will eventually have a chance to walk out of this mountain range. The person with weaker willpower couldn't bear to walk aimlessly. He asked, "Is there anyone with me?" The eyes of the others flickered. One of them said, "I'll go with you. Let's hope it works." The other 2 looked at Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin shook his head and said, "Since it's a forbidden area, how can it be so easy to get out?" The eyes of the 2 of them flickered. Even Immortal Foundation experts could fly up into the air. Qin Wentian's words made sense. If one could simply fly up into the air and leave this place wouldn't be known as the Forbidden Ground. Let's go. The bodies of the 2 people who wanted to leave rose into the air and kept moving towards a very high place. Qin Wenyin looked up and saw that the bodies of the 2 people were becoming smaller and smaller. Gradually, they were about to disappear from his sight. Clearly, they had reached a very high place. Suddenly, a beam of green light appeared in the sky. It was as if a green tentacle had reached out from the clouds and shrouded the 2 black dots. The eyes of Qin Wenyin and the others flickered. An extremely terrifying aura permeated the air as an incomparably demonic green light cascaded down, illuminating this entire space. Although it was only for an instant, that beam of light was extremely resplendent. They disappeared. One of them mumbled. The 2 black dots in the air vanished, indicating that the 2 silhouettes had disappeared. Are they dead? The other person was none other than that old man who had been stuck at the peak of Immortal Foundation for many years. He stared at the sky as a fox mourned the death of its own kind. How can they not die? Qin Wenyin spoke in a low voice, similarly feeling a sense of sorrow in his heart. He also hoped for a path of survival, but in truth, it was extremely difficult to find one. At the very least right now, he couldn't see any signs of survival. Let's hope there's a way out. The old man sighed. Other than Qin Wenyan, his will was the most resolute. He had been stuck at the Immortal Foundation realm for a very long time before he decided to come to the Forbidden Ground to search for an opportunity. His perception of life and death was much more indifferent compared to others. The other person was a handsome young man with an extraordinary demeanor. He had an ancient sword strapped to his back and seemed to be a sword cultivator. He was a man of few words and had always been moving silently. That's right, who says that there's no light at the end of the tunnel? Qin Wenyan laughed, as though he was consoling himself. As he spoke, he continued speeding forward. After several months, they saw a strange mountain range in front of them. They stared down at the canyon below, only to discover that there was actually an incomparably gigantic palm imprint there. This palm imprint stretched across the land, and there were 5 incomparably distinct depressions. These were none other than the fingers of the palm imprint. What was even more terrifying was that this palm imprint actually exuded a faint pressure. Just by standing at the side, one could feel the majestic pressure gushing over, wanting to crush everything. Is this forbidden ground really the mountain of law? That old man spoke in a low voice. Being able to leave behind such a palm imprint, that person should at least have the strength of a peak-stage immortal emperor. Qin Wenyan's expression changed as well. This mountain range had existed for countless years, and the history of this palm imprint should be extremely long as well. Even after so many years, the aura emanating from this palm imprint had yet to dissipate. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful the person who created this palm imprint must be. I'm only curious now, how vast is this place exactly? That handsome young man spoke. After they entered the forbidden ground, they had been moving forward for over a year, but they still couldn't see the end. They had no idea where they were now. Hence, he wanted to ask, how deep was the forbidden ground exactly? And where would it lead to? Let's go. Qin Wenyan also sighed in his heart. But he only spoke 2 words before he continued forward, passing by the 5-fingered mountain. Below, the pressure from the palm imprint permeated the air. This 5-fingered mountain was extremely vast. They had to walk for quite some time before they passed it. After that, they arrived at another mountain range. There's someone there. At this moment, they saw a black-cloaked figure quietly standing there. The 3 of them halted their steps, not daring to move an inch. At this moment, that figure slowly turned around. Qin Wenyan and the 2 others saw a face exuding a heroic aura. That pair of eyes were dark and deep, filled with vigor, as though wanting to see through the 3 of them. It's a living human, it's Wu Xiu. The old man exclaimed in shock. This was the first living human they saw in the Forbidden Ground, Wu Xiu. Li Yufeng told Qin Wenyan that the Dark North Immortal Mountain didn't have a single entrance. For some powerful characters, they would enter the depths of the mountain from other entrances. This expert before them should be one of them. Qin Wenyan's eyes gleamed with a light that could see through all illusions. However, he still couldn't see through this person. Clearly, this person was at the Immortal King realm and was much stronger compared to him. I pay my respects to Senior. Qin Wenyan called out. That person calmly glanced at Qin Wenyan and the others. That heroic face of his contained traces of curiosity and disdain. Shifting his gaze over, he spoke in a low voice. Fellows who aren't afraid of death. Being able to survive until here, your lives are truly tough. Senior, we mistakenly entered the Forbidden Ground and met with death many times. On the way here, many of our companions died. Can Senior guide us to the right path? The handsome young man beside Qin Wenyan clasped his hands. There's no right path. Given your cultivation bases, there's only a path of death. That young man calmly spoke, his tone filled with certainty. A path of death? The countenances of Qin Wenyan and the 2 others changed. The old man spoke. Junior, may I be so bold as to ask if we can follow Senior? That young man abruptly turned around, his eyes gleaming with sharpness like lightning. That old man staggered backwards as his countenance instantly paled. A mocking smile appeared on the young man's face. "Are you guys even worthy?" The old man's countenance dimmed, he had nothing to say. Being led by a supreme character, they truly weren't worthy. "Senior, this brother Qin here is a friend of Princess Nongyue of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. His status is extraordinary." The young man beside Qin Wenyan spoke, as though he was unwilling to give up. It wasn't easy for them to encounter a ray of hope. As long as this young man agreed to help them, they might be able to leave this place alive. The young man's gaze faltered. He glanced at Qin Wenyan as a mocking smile appeared on his face. "What do you mean by that?" He stared at the young man as he calmly spoke. Upon sensing the sharpness of the young man's gaze, the young man apologized. "Senior, please forgive me. This junior doesn't have any other intentions." "No other intentions?" The young man laughed, after which he stepped out. With just a single step, the countenances of the people beside Qin Wenyan paled, as though they were enveloped by a boundless killing intent. "Senior, please forgive us." Qin Wenyan and the old man spoke at the same time. Right now, only one of their companions was left, yet this young man actually wanted to kill them. "Forgive me? A friend of Baiming Nongyue? Are you using your status to suppress me?" A bolt of lightning flashed in the eyes of that young man. After which, a scream of misery rang out. The companion beside Qin Wenyan directly exploded into pieces as fresh blood splattered, landing on Qin Wenyan's face. His expression was extremely unsightly to behold. Although the words of the young man were a little rude, it might not be what he said. However, this young man actually wanted to kill him just because of a single sentence. "I won't kill you guys. If you guys can leave this place alive, why don't you tell that last Baiming Nongyue that you met Pei Qing in this forbidden ground?" The young man calmly spoke. After which, he turned and departed, vanishing completely with a flash. "Pei Qing." A terrifying gleam of sharpness flashed in the eyes of the old man. "Are you acquainted with him?" Qin Wenyan asked. In the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, Pei Qing's name is even more resounding compared to Princess Nongyue's. The old man's expression trembled. No wonder this young man wanted to kill someone just because of a single sentence. Pei Qing, the youngest immortal emperor in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. He's the first person to do so since the founding of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. The old man spoke in a low voice, his words causing Qin Wenyan's eyes to gleam with sharpness. With such a radiance, no wonder this young man was so arrogant, killing so easily. This young man looked so young, yet he was actually an immortal emperor. "Only the two of us are left." Qin Wenyan sighed. The old man's expression also froze. Among the people who entered the forbidden ground, only he and Qin Wenyan were still alive. "Let's go." Qin Wenyan continued forward. Not long after, they stopped again. Ahead of them, there were actually many stone monuments. These monuments were all wordless, embedded into the ground. They were like tombstones. Chapter 1348. Qin Wenyan suddenly spoke. He wasn't acquainted with this old man and he didn't know the other people who entered the forbidden ground. Everyone chose to enter the forbidden ground on their own, and they should be responsible for their own choices. There was no need for him to say anything, but right now, only the two of them were left alive. He still felt somewhat sorrowful and hoped that this old man would be able to live on. Hence, he couldn't help but to persuade him. "Seems like, elder brother Qin, you don't understand much about the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Who in the immortal dynasty doesn't know of Princess Yu Huang? Hence, Pei Qing has been announcing to the outside world that he wants to woo Princess Kitamura and marry her." The two of them chatted casually as they advanced, as though they were trying to ease the tension in their hearts. After all, so many people had entered the forbidden ground and now, only the two of them were still alive. In addition, Pei Qing also said earlier that there was no clear path, only death. "Before this, I was stared at by the zombies and couldn't even release a trace of my aura. But in truth, if it wasn't for that situation, as long as I had some time, I might have a chance to escape. Hence, even if we meet with danger later on, I might still have a chance to survive. However, because of the oath made by my sect, I can't bring Old Sir along. Hence, Old Sir doesn't have to make the same choice as me. Just like what Old Sir said before, you can cultivate here and maybe break through to the immortal king realm before you meet with danger. I'm already very fortunate to be able to reach this point. I don't have too much hope, it's been so many years since I took that final step. If I die here, it's also my fate. However, before we enter, can I ask you who you are exactly? Why would Princess Nongyue and the Saint Child of the 100 Refinements sect hold you in such high regard? I've always been curious. Qin Wenin walked up and stared at the wordless stone tablets that exuded an ancient aura. Qin Wenin changed his direction once more. As he continued forward, he saw too many strange phenomena. He saw many terrifying divine weapons that weren't something he could touch. He also saw many zombies, and all of them had their own sentiments and attachments. With a smile, he didn't say anything and continued walking forward. Qin Wenin walked forward step by step, moving towards the baleful aura. When the baleful aura grew stronger and stronger, the terrifying law energy seemed to be able to tear everything apart. His footsteps slowed as he stared ahead. There were still dark clouds, but within the dark clouds, a supreme cold light could be seen, illuminating this entire patch of dark clouds. Shall we go in? The old man asked, looking at Qin Wenin. Some of the stone steels had already shattered, turning into rubble that scattered everywhere. There were also some stone steels that were split down the middle, and deep pits could be seen at the bottom of the steels. Old Mister. Qin Wenin called out again. The old man halted and turned his head to look at Qin Wenin. Changing his direction, Qin Wenin left this place and continued to walk through the dark clouds. He could sense the boundless destructive qi, and he quietly sensed it as he walked towards the source. After that, he saw a zombie sitting on the ground, hugging onto a white robe. This robe seemed to belong to a female. Although this zombie had been dead for countless years, it was still filled with attachment to the owner of this robe. There's someone there. All of a sudden, Qin Wenin saw a human silhouette beside the broken saber. It was a zombie, and his head was severed in half. Qin Wenin drew in a breath of cold air and instantly retracted his aura. That silhouette stared in his direction, as though it had eyes and knew of his existence. However, it didn't move, it merely circled around the saber, exuding a deep sense of attachment. Naturally, I don't even know how long the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom has existed. The #1 expert in history, how can he not be strong? Also, the #1 expert in history is at the Immortal Emperor realm. There's no one in the past, but I don't dare to say that there won't be someone like him in the future. Everyone in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom knows that there's a person who has the chance to surpass him, but I don't know if that person would be able to do so or not. The old man spoke. Why do I feel that this Immortal Law Mountain is like an ancient battlefield? Regardless of the palm imprint or the stone monument, there seemed to be an incomparably great battle that flattened everything. The city was reduced to ashes, leaving only the uneven ground. But as time passed, this place became a desolate mountain range. Qin Wenin mumbled. Old Sir. Qin Wenin called out. No one replied. Many geniuses with unparalleled talent died midway or met with a bottleneck. But Pei Qing had already reached the Immortal Emperor realm. No one dared to doubt him anymore. Everyone in the world knew of him. The aura of destruction emanated from her robes. It was unknown how many terrifying destructive attacks she had endured when she was alive. Baiming Nongyue? Qin Wenin felt somewhat bewildered. So, I choose to enter. Old Sir, you should choose according to your heart as well. Qin Wenin spoke in a low voice. He wouldn't try to persuade others to enter with him. This was his choice, not the choice of others. Everyone should have their own choices and they need to be responsible for their own choices. He is the owner of the saber? Qin Wentian's heart trembled. He was already a dead man, how could he still be alive? The aura of slaughter, the aura of destruction, the aura of death. However, amidst this aura of despair, he actually sensed a trace of life. It was like he had been saved from death's door. Brother Qin, take care of yourself. Live well. From the dark clouds, A voice rang out. It was the voice of the old man. He had left, he wanted to barge in alone. Qin Wendian nodded lightly. Our purpose in entering the forbidden ground is to search for an opportunity. But after we entered, our purpose is to survive. How sad. I don't know. In any case, there's something strange about this place. Qin Wendian continued walking forward. That Pei Qing is an immortal emperor. Even an immortal emperor came here to explore. From this, one can see that there's definitely a shocking secret in this mountain range. If not, like what you said, as the person who broke through to the immortal emperor realm the fastest in the history of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, there's no need for him to come here. My name is Qin Wendian. I come from an emperor-ranked power in the eastern regions. Bai Ming Nongyue and Li Yufeng treated me as a good friend because back then when the Tiandao Sacred Academy opened, we got to know each other. At that time, Li Yufeng ascended to the Supreme Might rankings and was replaced by me. Maybe he started to pay attention to me at that moment. In the Sacred Academy, I caused quite a commotion and fought against the juniors of several major powers, causing waves of commotion. This is what happened, there's nothing special about it. The eyes of the old man flashed. He turned his head back and stared at Qin Wendian in bewilderment. As expected of someone from a major power, he actually still had life-saving methods in this forbidden ground. That's true. Qin Wendian nodded. This was the #1 character in history. As long as there was no hatred between them, they would naturally be on good terms with him. The danger is unpredictable. Who knows when those zombies would suddenly appear? It's also very dangerous to stay here. Qin Wendian shook his head. He didn't like to passively wait. He chose to continue forward. Although there were many dangers, as long as there's the slightest chance, he would continue forward. In addition, he still had a trump card. Princess Kitamura is so powerful? Qin Wendian was somewhat surprised. This place seems to be safer. Actually, Brother Qin, we still have another path. Let's stay here. The old man spoke. Your Highness. What a powerful, baleful aura. At this moment, the eyes of the two of them flashed. They continued forward, arriving at the edge of the mountain and stared at the gigantic canyon ahead. Over there, a layer of dark clouds could be seen. Despite the passage of countless years, the dark clouds still didn't dissipate. It was like there were dead souls from an ancient battlefield here. The baleful aura originated from there. Qin Wendian mused that if it was really like what he had guessed, this place must be an ancient battlefield. How many experts were buried here? This number was simply too terrifying. Qin Wendian couldn't help but sigh in his heart. You call this nothing special? The old man was speechless. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. After that, he continued forward. Naturally not. Princess Nongyue is only at the Immortal Foundation realm. How would I be able to tell? Also, Princess Nongyue's chances are very slim. It's her elder sister, Princess Kitamura. She's known as the #1 beauty of our Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, a supreme empress. It's rumored that in the future, the throne of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom wouldn't be passed down to the emperor's son but to Princess Kitamura instead. There are so many sons and daughters of the emperor, but none of them can be compared to her. Pei Qing has always been incomparably arrogant. If it wasn't for the fact that this place is extraordinary, he wouldn't have come here. The old man nodded. Although he wasn't acquainted with Pei Qing, he had heard too many rumors about him in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Pei Qing was a legendary character, a true supreme genius. That was a saber, a broken saber. Only half of the saber remained. But even though it was only half a saber, it still shone with the resplendent light. Qin Wendian sighed. After that, he walked forward as well. He finally sensed the aura of law energy, an extremely powerful one. Also, this time around, it wasn't just a single law, but an incomparably chaotic law energy. It's precisely because he is too arrogant, he can't tolerate others offending him. That sentence earlier, if it was an ordinary immortal king, he would most probably help and get acquainted with Princess Nongyue. But he is Pei Qing, hence, he felt that those words had offended his pride. Indeed, he doesn't need to care about Princess Nongyue's feelings. After all, as the #1 character in history, he would at the very least become a peak-stage immortal emperor in the future and even has the chance to break through to that level. This Pei Qing is truly arrogant. But since he wants to marry Princess Kitamura, why did he kill Baiming Nongyue just because of that sentence? Qin Wendian tried walking away. As expected, that living corpse didn't care about him. It was like even after he died, that living corpse still had an undying longing for the saber. If this is really a battlefield, and this place is really the tombstone of ancient times, what are these pits for? Could it be those living corpses? The countenance of the old man changed. If it was those living corpses, things would truly be too terrifying. Burying the dead here and they could actually revive? What place was this exactly? Who is it? Qin Wendian's eyes flashed. Qin Wendian sighed. He stepped out, entering the canyon that was shrouded in dark clouds. Very swiftly, he discovered that the old man in front of him could no longer be seen. Is Pei Qing really so powerful? Qin Wendian curiously asked, feeling somewhat unhappy with Pei Qing. Although he knew that as an immortal emperor, no one would dare to say anything if Pei Qing trampled an immortal foundation expert to death, he was still very unhappy despite the fact that there was still an insurmountable disparity between him and Pei Qing. Yeah, you don't have any real experience and always feel that you're lucky. Now that you've entered this place, you've already forgotten why you came here. The old man laughed. Chapter 1349. The area enveloped by the dark clouds was much larger compared to any of the mountain ranges Qin Wendian had been to before. Qin Wendian would occasionally stop and occasionally sit down to comprehend. Just like this, 3 years passed and he still hadn't walked out of this space. However, he grew more and more sensitive to the laws of heaven and earth. During these 3 years, he saw many different sceneries. He had no way to imagine how vast this ancient battlefield was. If there really was a great battle here, the number of experts who participated in that battle definitely wasn't something he could imagine. At this moment, Qin Wendian sat before a gigantic tree. This gigantic tree was so tall that its roots reached the heavens. Even if 1,000 people tried to wrap their arms around it, they might not be able to wrap their arms around it. This ancient tree exuded a terrifying law aura of destruction, forming a terrifying law domain around it. Naturally, Qin Wendian suspected that this ancient tree itself was formed from laws. If he was to use Wu Xiu's cultivation base to classify it, this ancient tree would be a body of laws. Qin Wendian sat there in cultivation, quietly sensing the flow of the laws of destruction, wanting to comprehend the language of the laws of destruction. After several months, he could already use the law energy of destruction in his body. Even if he didn't use his immortal foundation, he could still create the law energy of destruction around him. This wasn't a small improvement and he knew that he was getting closer and closer to the realm he wanted to reach. Qin Wendian closed his eyes. In his perception, in the formless space around him, black-colored destructive runes flowed uncontrollably. The him now, it was still very difficult for him to fully control them. If he could do that, he would be infinitely closer to the immortal king realm. After a long time, Qin Wendian stood up and walked towards the gigantic tree. The closer he got, the stronger the destructive energy. Luckily, this gigantic tree wouldn't take the initiative to attack him or he would definitely be a peak-stage immortal king. After walking to the front of the tree, Qin Wendian already felt that his body couldn't endure it any longer. If it wasn't for the fact that he also cultivated this energy, he wouldn't have dared to get so close. Taking out a divine weapon, Qin Wendian stabbed it into the ancient tree. The sharpness of the divine weapon was incomparably sharp, but the law energy of destruction instantly corroded it. Qin Wendian immediately let go, causing the divine weapon to fall to the ground. The destructive qi flowed around it. Qin Wendian didn't dare to take it anymore. He lifted his foot and turned to leave. Several months later, Qin Wendian came to a valley filled with dark clouds. This place was incomparably heavy, containing the law energy of gravity. Every step Qin Wendian took caused him to feel a sense of terror. It was extremely difficult for him to even lift his feet as he advanced step by step. His entire body was bent from the pressure. Finally, he saw the origin of the law energy of gravity. It was a gigantic boulder on the mountain. The shape of this boulder was extremely irregular, but it was extremely lustrous. There was actually a law light flowing around the surface of it. The heavens and earth are truly wondrous, able to create all sorts of miraculous sights. Could it be that the reason why life is born in this world, is it because there is a type of law energy in this world? Qin Wenyan suddenly had a thought as he mumbled. He sat on the ground and endured the terrifying gravity, quietly comprehending the law energy and the flow of it. After a long time, he continued on his journey. On the way, he saw all sorts of miraculous sights, broadening his horizons. Qin Wenyan had already completely lost his sense of direction. He also didn't know where he was now. Luckily, he didn't encounter any dangers. It's just that ordinary people would find it hard to exit this place. However, he still had a trump card. If there was no other way, he could only use the heavenly talisman realm to open a spatial tunnel to leave. Another few years passed. Qin Wenyan has been in the dark north immortal mountain for a very long time. Right now, his face was filled with the vicissitudes of life. This space seemed to have no end, there was no way for him to exit it forever. However, Qin Wenyan still chose to cultivate here. There was no other place more suitable for him to cultivate. This was a forbidden ground, a sacred ground for cultivation. Once he breaks through to the immortal king realm, he would open a spatial tunnel to leave this place. What a powerful suppressive aura. At this moment, Qin Wenyan sensed an extremely tyrannical aura. He walked in that direction and after a long time, his steps halted as he stared at the sky in a daze. Qin Wenyan was speechless. In front of him, there were two gigantic stone monuments that radiated a boundless divine glow. Up in the sky, resplendent beams of light cascaded downwards, landing on the stone monuments. These beams of light were akin to the radiance of the constellations, illuminating the entire space, dispersing the clouds and revealing the sun. Don't tell me that this is astral resonance, directly borrowing the light from the 9 heavenly layers. Qin Wenyan felt incomparably shocked. This was the means of an immortal emperor. Right now, such a terrifying scene appeared on the 2 stone monuments. How could one not sigh in admiration? Rumble. Abruptly, Qin Wenyan discovered that he couldn't move at all. A supreme suppressive light bore down on him, causing his blood, flesh, tendons and bones to feel immense pressure. With a groan of misery, he coughed out fresh blood and directly slumped to the ground as his countenance turned pale, only to see one of the stone tablets moving. That's right, under Qin Wenyan's shocked gaze, that gigantic stone tablet flew towards Qin Wenyan as a pressure that could collapse the heavens gushed forth. However, it didn't land on Qin Wenyan's body. He only felt a sense of terror. If not, he would have already died. Qin Wenyan's body gushed forth with suppressive might, but it was like an ant trying to shake a tree. When he saw the stone monument flying towards him, he only felt despair. He didn't expect that he wouldn't die in the hands of the zombies but would die in the hands of a stone monument instead. But at this moment, the stone monument suddenly halted. The gigantic monument actually shrunk to the size of a human and floated above Qin Wenyan's head, stopping just like that. Qin Wenyan stared at this scene in astonishment. Could this stone monument have gained sentience? Could it be that it had intelligence? With a flash, Qin Wenyan stood up and fled. However, the stone monument followed right behind him and instantly caught up. Before Qin Wenyan could take 2 steps, he was directly suppressed to the ground, causing him to cough out another mouthful of blood. However, the stone tablet was still merciful and did not kill him. Otherwise, with how terrifying the stone tablet was, it could have destroyed him with a single attack and killed him right away. Junior unintentionally intruded into this place. If Senior's spirit is here, please show mercy. Qin Wenyan spoke. After that, he stood up and continued to flee. The light from the stone monument flowed and Qin Wenyan only managed to take 2 steps before he was suppressed to the ground, unable to get up. Qin Wenyan didn't give up. He repeated the same thing over 10 times and the bones in his body felt like they were about to break. He only felt incomparably depressed. This stone monument was clearly toying with him. This time around, Qin Wenyin, who was lying on the ground, formed a series of hand seals. A moment later, a spatial fluctuation gushed forth as the heavens and earth changed color. The stone monument trembled slightly as though it was looking at him. I mustn't open a spatial tunnel in front of others. This stone monument might have a spirit, but it can't be considered a human. Qin Wenyin recalled the rules of the heavenly talisman realm as he mused in his heart. Bzz. A terrifying pressure bore down on the spatial tunnel. However, the spatial tunnel still appeared there. It didn't collapse from the pressure. Qin Wenyin dashed forward. This stone monument was too intelligent. He hoped that it wouldn't kill him directly. He could only go all out. Abruptly, Qin Wenyin brandished the demon sword as he flew towards the stone monument. His body flew towards the spatial passageway, and just when he was about to step into it, a terrifying pressure bore down on him as the spatial passageway was actually forcefully closed. Qin Wenyan's countenance turned as pale as paper. The stone monument blasted the demon sword away and once again unleashed its might. Qin Wenyin coughed out fresh blood. Qin Wenyin was on the verge of collapse. Would this forbidden ground be his burial ground? Rumble! An overwhelming pressure bore down on Qin Wenyin. He was directly forced to the ground. Was this a dead end? He was filled with reluctance. However, at this moment, the pressure suddenly vanished without a trace. Qin Wenyin was bewildered. He inclined his head and his heart trembled. In front of him, a silhouette appeared. The long hair of this silhouette had already reached the ground, resembling a ghost. A living corpse? Qin Wenyan's eyes flickered, after which he saw the silhouette turning around. The silhouette's face was also covered by the long hair, but a pair of pitch-black eyes could be seen, gleaming with a faint sharpness. A living corpse. Qin Wenyan's heart trembled as he called out, "Senior, return." That silhouette glanced at the stone monument. Momentarily, the stone monument flew over as a terrifying energy enveloped Qin Wenyin, after which his body was restrained and he couldn't move at all. He floated in the air, following behind the silhouette, his body completely out of his control. Is this person a human or a ghost? If he's a stellar martial cultivator, how strong is he? Qin Wenyin simply had no way to imagine. That stone monument was already extremely terrifying. It was actually able to absorb the astral radiance of the constellations. Yet, this person was able to repel it with a single sentence. Also, this person seemed to have been living in this secret realm for a very long time. How many years had he lived for? Qin Wenyin floated there, staring at the sky as intense waves rose in his heart. He walked past the two stone monuments only to see that the stone monument that chased after him earlier transformed back into a gigantic one, absorbing the astral radiance from the 9 heavenly layers. Bzz. Qin Wenyin only felt his body being flung through the air, after which he landed on the ground. That pressure vanished. He stood up and stared at the mysterious figure before him. However, the mysterious figure wasn't looking at him, but was staring ahead instead. Qin Wenyin also stared ahead, after which his gaze froze. A majestic city had transformed into ruins. Numerous palaces could be seen there, but all of them were in ruins. I'll give you a year's time to cultivate here. If you can't break through to the immortal king realm, you shall die. That mysterious figure spoke before vanishing from sight. Qin Wenyin was astonished. Breaking through to the immortal king realm in a year's time? What did this mysterious figure mean by that? Who was he exactly? What secrets were hidden in this forbidden ground? Chapter 1350. Qin Wenyin stood up and stared at the dilapidated city before him. At this moment, he could faintly confirm that a heaven-shaking battle must have occurred here before. One couldn't see the end of this majestic city with a single glance. It was unknown just how vast it was. There were boundary steels guarding the outside. These stone steels had gained sentience and were able to shine together with the stars. They were existences comparable to immortal emperors. And this was merely the stone steels guarding the gate. One could very well imagine how majestic the original appearance of this majestic city was. Sadly, there was no place left that was undamaged. Everything had been destroyed. Those zombies and their loved ones, as well as those tombstones. Could it be that they were all experts from the past? Qin Wentian speculated. The possibility of this was not small. In that case, could that mysterious expert earlier be a lucky survivor? If that was the case, this forbidden ground was even more ancient compared to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Back then, the royal palace of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom was built according to the laws of the Immortal Mountains. Thinking about it this way, if that mysterious expert was truly a lucky survivor, how many years has he lived for? Just the thought of it caused Qin Wentian to feel fear in his heart. If this was the case, that mysterious expert must be an extremely terrifying old monster. Before this, when the spatial passageway to the Heavenly Talisman realm closed, Qin Wentian guessed that it wasn't done by the stone monument. Although the stone monument was extremely terrifying, it didn't succeed in suppressing the spatial passageway. After that, the spatial passageway to the Heavenly Talisman realm closed. That person must be an extremely terrifying character. I might have encountered a supremely powerful old monster. Qin Wentian silently mused. In this azure mystic immortal realms, the strongest experts he heard of were ancient emperors, followed by immortal emperors and immortal kings. In that case, what level was this old monster at? Could it be that he was a peak stage immortal emperor? Or perhaps, an ancient emperor? Such an existence, why did he want him to break through to the immortal king realm within a year? If he didn't break through, he would die. With a flash of his silhouette, Qin Wentian entered the depths of the city. He discovered that not only was the city in ruins, it was also destroyed by a supreme destructive might. As he continued forward, he saw the towering demonic saber slashing down from the heavens. Its demonic might was still there, unwilling to dissipate. He saw the terrifying abyssal fire burning an incomparably vast area into an abyss of fire. It was like a land, and he could feel the majestic power of the burning sky from afar. Qin Wentian did not dare to approach it, and he took a detour at a distance. He could even see the lightning region. Bolts of lightning unceasingly rained down from the sky, transforming into a forbidden zone of destruction. If one looked at it from the air, there was basically no one who dared to get close to it. It was only because Qin Wentian was in this majestic city that he was able to see and feel everything clearly. I have to break through to the immortal king realm now. Qin Wentian silently mused. He no longer had time. When he saw the terrifying destructive might of this city, Qin Wentian didn't doubt that if he didn't step into the immortal king realm within a year, the other party would really kill him. In addition, he didn't attempt to open up a spatial tunnel to the Heavenly Talisman realm. Although he couldn't sense any aura in the surroundings, he had a strange feeling that the other party was looking at him. Given the terrifying cultivation base of the mysterious man, he might be able to envelop countless regions with a single thought, sealing the spatial tunnel to the Heavenly Talisman realm. He wouldn't be able to escape. Qin Wentian began his journey of cultivation. Sometimes he would walk and sometimes he would stop. Sometimes he would comprehend something and he would sit down to cultivate. And while he was cultivating, there was a commotion in the Heavenly Talisman realm. Back then when Qin Wentian opened up the spatial tunnel, it was sealed by external forces. The supervising immortal general of the Heavenly Talisman realm sensed it. This matter couldn't be underestimated. Not far away from the stone monument, at the location where Qin Wentian opened the spatial passageway to the Heavenly Talisman realm, a terrifying spatial fluctuation gushed forth. An extremely powerful spatial energy forcefully broke through the spatial barrier as a group of experts walked out, all of them exuding a fearsome aura. There's no mistake, it's the mysterious forbidden zone within the immortal law mountain of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. One of them spoke. It's still in the depths of the forbidden zone. I wonder which disciple managed to barge into this place. Be more careful. This place is extremely mysterious and there's rumors that there's a terrifying existence lurking there. Even now, no one has managed to unravel the secrets of this place. They continued forward and soon after, They also saw two gigantic stone steels, shining with the brilliance of the stars, suppressing this space. In front of them, there was only a dazzling stream of light. Emperor-ranked weapons? The eyes of the experts flashed with sharpness. Rumble! A towering suppression energy gushed forth from one of the stone monuments. In an instant, the entire area seemed to be frozen. The countenances of everyone changed. This stone monument could even attack on its own? One of them stretched out a finger and pointed it forward. Instantly, cracks appeared in the sky as cracking sounds rang out. A casual strike from that stone monument was terrifying to the extreme. Numerous silhouettes suddenly descended silently. These silhouettes had no signs of life at all. Zombies! The eyes of the experts flashed. What was this forbidden ground hiding exactly? Who was the one who forcefully sealed the spatial tunnel to their heavenly talisman realm? I wonder who is it? Please show yourself. An expert from the heavenly talisman realm spoke. His voice rumbled, but it seemed like it had no way to transmit it out. It was suppressed by the two stone monuments. Even his voice was suppressed. Opening a spatial tunnel outside of this world, I have no interest in your secrets. Don't come and disturb me. A voice that seemed to be filled with the vicissitudes of life drifted over. In fact, it was impossible to tell the origin of the voice. The eyes of the experts from the heavenly talisman realm flashed. In the depths of the immortal law mountain of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, there was actually a supreme expert who could see through the secrets of their heavenly talisman realm with a single glance and could even seal the spatial tunnel. Senior, who are you? Before this, a member of our sect was here. Senior, can you show mercy? That powerful expert from the heavenly talisman realm spoke, actually addressing the mysterious voice as Senior. Evidently, he could already sense that the owner of this mysterious voice was a terrifying character. For nameless people, I have never killed anyone. Whether your sect member can live or not, it's up to him. Go back. That voice rang out again. The eyes of the experts from the heavenly talisman realm flickered, filled with reluctance in their hearts. They had never encountered such a thing before. The heavens and earth were boundlessly vast. There would always be some secrets. Just like how their heavenly talisman realm existed in the immortal realms, only a few people knew of it. They frowned. They didn't know how to handle this matter. This terrifying expert was someone from the Forbidden Grounds. Even if he knew of the secrets of the heavenly talisman realm, it shouldn't be too serious. But they were truly unwilling to leave just like that. Go back, go back, go back. Abruptly, a thunderous boom rang out in the air. The experts from the heavenly talisman realm directly froze there. They only felt a supreme energy causing their bodies to freeze. After that, to their horror, they discovered that their bodies were being forced backwards, slowly being sucked into the heavenly talisman realm. After that, under their incomparably shocked gazes, the passageway to the heavenly talisman realm slowly closed up. If there's anyone who dares to disturb us in the future, I will slaughter my way into your world. An incomparably thunderous voice rang out in the ears of the experts. After that, the spatial tunnel completely closed. Within the heavenly talisman realm, the experts from the heavenly talisman realm felt their hearts pounding as their bodies trembled. They had never seen or heard of such a terrifying expert before. What cultivation realm is that? Everyone stared at the strongest expert in the center, an immortal emperor. I don't know. His face was still filled with shock. He didn't know what cultivation realm that expert was at. They weren't even on the same level. That expert was so powerful that he couldn't sense it. He only knew that he had never seen such a cultivation realm before. Don't go out and antagonize him. Also, don't spread this news outside. That expert solemnly spoke. Seems like those who entered the Dark North Immortal Mountain are all very lucky. This man isn't easy to kill. Just like what he said, he has never killed anyone before. If not, no matter what major characters entered, they most probably wouldn't be able to walk out alive. But it's rumored that many people died in the Forbidden Grounds and the death rate is extremely high. At the very least, one must be at the Immortal King realm before they have the qualifications to enter. Maybe those zombies didn't participate. If he did, How many people in the immortal realms would be able to stop him? Luckily, this man doesn't care about external matters. The world is so vast, there are truly all sorts of mysteries. That expert spoke in a low voice. After that, the group of experts turned and departed, no longer intending to interfere in the matters of the forbidden grounds. If they still wanted to forcefully interfere, they would surely alarm those existences. Qin Wenyin had no idea what was happening in front of the stone monument. Right now, he was completely focused on his cultivation. Time was of the essence, and he could sense that he was already very close to the immortal king realm. He had to break through as soon as possible. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared beside Qin Wenyin. This was none other than the mysterious expert with long hair. He stood beside Qin Wenyin and coldly spoke. "You didn't improve at all, your cultivation speed is actually so slow." Qin Wenyin frowned. His cultivation was interrupted. He opened his eyes and stared at the mysterious expert beside him. "Senior, the people from your world actually opened up a passageway to come here. They simply don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. If it wasn't for the fact that I swore not to kill, all of them would have died long ago. You better pray that they don't reveal my existence." "Senior." Qin Wenyin wanted to speak, but before he could say anything, the mysterious expert continued. "Those people who came to the Forbidden Grounds, do they really think that they are so powerful that they can survive here? What they don't know is that everything they see is what I want them to see. If I want them to live, they will live. If I want them to die, they will die. And your life is truly tough. I don't even know why I allowed you to come here." The old man inclined his head. His long hair flowed to the side, revealing a face that was filled with the vicissitudes of life. "Junior." Qin Wenyin wanted to speak, but he was interrupted again. "Your cultivation speed is too slow. You better hurry up and cultivate. If you can't step into the immortal king realm within a year, you won't be so lucky again." After speaking, that person's silhouette flashed and vanished. Qin Wenyin was completely astonished. He completely couldn't see how the mysterious expert disappeared. It was too fast, so fast that it was terrifying. Qin Wenyin was somewhat speechless. He discovered that this mysterious expert seemed to be a little talkative. He didn't say anything at all and was interrupted by the mysterious expert. Could it be that he had been lonely for too long? Chapter 1351. Qin Wenyin stared at the disappearing silhouette of the other party. He thought back to the words spoken to him earlier as his heart trembled. Within the Forbidden Ground, the major characters of the immortal realms came here to explore, thinking that they would be able to unravel the secrets within. But little did they know that everything was actually controlled by this mysterious character. The places he saw were only the places he wanted others to see. He didn't act to kill, or no matter which major character entered the Forbidden Ground, only death awaited them. This mysterious character was the true king of the Forbidden Ground. Expelling the distracting thoughts in his heart, Qin Wenyin calmed his heart and drew in a deep breath. After that, he continued his cultivation journey. "There's a Tao in the heavens and earth, I need to explore it." Qin Wenyin mumbled as he strolled around the city. Every time he came to a terrifying place, he would sit down and comprehend, sensing the flow of the runic patterns in the world, feeling how the laws were born. Gradually, he tried to control them, to evolve them, to forge his own Tao of laws. The city was boundlessly vast, like another world within the Forbidden Ground. If this place really belonged to a power of the past, Qin Wenyin didn't dare to imagine how strong this power was. Most probably, it was a supreme power of the ancient era. In that era, were there ancient emperors? There definitely were. In fact, Qin Wenyin was thinking that in this era, were there really no ancient emperors at all? Just because they didn't go out, it didn't mean that they didn't exist. They might be hiding in the world, and even if they truly existed, they couldn't be considered a symbol of an era. Time flowed by. Qin Wenyin has already been in the Forbidden Ground for several years. During this period of time, undercurrents flowed in the eastern regions. Although the major powers didn't directly erupt into war, there would occasionally be some small-scale battles. For example, The disciples of the Evergreen Kingdom clashed with others when they roamed the outside world. But because they were scattered in different locations, it was inconspicuous. But there were already many disciples of the Evergreen Kingdom who went out to temper themselves, or even those with nobility level, who lost their lives in battles. In this case, it was extremely abnormal. Evidently, someone had acted, slowly nibbling away at the power of the Evergreen Kingdom, weakening it. This kind of battle seemed to be invisible, but in reality, it was extremely dangerous. It was a surging undercurrent, and once it erupted, it could be world-shaking. Qin Wendian vanished. The people of the eastern regions had no idea where he went. There were rumors saying that back then he returned to the immortal Qianbian Gate from the Evergreen Kingdom and entered closed-door seclusion. It seemed that he was preparing to break through to the immortal King realm. Therefore, during this period of time, the immortal Qianbian Gate did not have an easy time. The Dongshangshan Gate began an expedition on a larger scale than before. Armies led by many immortal kings began to invade and attack the cities at the borders of the major cities, gradually nibbling away at the territory of the immortal Qianbian Gate. As for the immortal Qianbian Gate, they mainly adopted a defensive stance, retreating step by step. As for the Dongshangshan Gate, they were extremely aggressive. In fact, among these invading immortal kings, the immortal Qianbian Gate could even sense the presence of experts that didn't belong to the Dongshangshan Gate. However, although both sides were well aware of this, there was nothing they could do. Now that the situation has already been set, unless immortal emperors stepped out to initiate a final battle, they could only compete with each other in terms of strength. Battles in the immortal realms would often be drawn-out battles. And clearly, a conflict has already erupted in the eastern regions. Sooner or later, a drastic change would occur. At the same time, in the immortal Qianbian Gate, Qin Wentian's family and friends were all entrusted by Qin Wentian to the Emperor of Qianbian, silently sending them to various places for cultivation. In a certain immortal mountain in the eastern regions, there was an immortal emperor-ranked power named the Unaging Immortal Mountain. The lord of this mountain was an extremely ancient immortal emperor. In fact, his age was even older compared to Eastern Sage and Emperor of Qianbian. However, his cultivation base was extremely low, stuck at the initial stage of the immortal emperor realm. Hence, although it was an immortal emperor-ranked power, it couldn't be considered the hegemon of the eastern regions. In addition, the unaging immortal emperor didn't seem to have any ambitions. He was proficient in concocting immortal pills. Hence, the other major powers didn't dare to offend him and maintained a friendly attitude. Hence, the unaging immortal mountain was like a piece of pure land in the eastern regions. It was similar to the God Hand Mountain Manor before Emperor Yu was exposed, quietly standing in the southern regions. It was just that Emperor Yu's manor didn't accept disciples. Emperor Yu was a hermit and had always concealed his cultivation base. His purpose of staying there was to silently guard the entrance of the Battle Saint tribe. The unaging immortal emperor was different. He had many disciples, and on the mountain, there were many ancient peaks. Each peak was filled with the disciples and grand-disciples of the unaging immortal emperor. In one of the ancient peaks in the unaging immortal mountain, there were waves of commotion during these years. It was only because a few years ago, a disciple of the unaging immortal mountain manor came here. This disciple was extremely beautiful with a single glance. Her beauty was unparalleled, like a celestial maiden, causing many females to be jealous and males to be in love with her. It was fine if it was merely her beauty. But after that, she also displayed shocking talent in the Tao of alchemy and was highly regarded by her master, treating her as a treasure. At this moment, this female stood before the cliff of the ancient peak, staring at the clouds ahead. Her beautiful eyes seemed to be staring into space, as though she was in a daze, as though she was thinking of some people, some things. Ching-ching. At this moment, a beautiful female walked over and stood beside her. Staring at her perfect profile, she smiled, staring at the clouds in a daze again. Who are you thinking of? Senior sister. Mo Ching-ching smiled lightly but didn't reply. She was nameless, and although she was Qin Wentian's wife, other than the people of the immortal Qianbian Gate, not many people knew of her existence. let alone here. Although the monarch arranged for her to come here, she didn't borrow the monarch's name and relied on herself to enter the unaging immortal mountain for cultivation. Hence, no one knew of her. However, even if they didn't know of her, it didn't mean that they didn't know of Qin Wentian's name. Right now, this name was extremely famous in the eastern regions. Even in the unaging immortal mountains, there might be people who have heard of him before. A few senior brothers from the main peak came here again. Who doesn't know of their intentions? Ever since you came here, the frequency of them coming here has clearly increased. Qingqing, your charm is truly great. That beautiful female smiled. Mo Qingqing's expression didn't change at all. She merely smiled and continued staring at the clouds in a daze. Senior sister, I came to the unaging immortal mountains only for the sake of cultivation. I don't wish to be disturbed by mundane matters. Mo Qingqing spoke in a low voice. She knew how outstanding Qin Wentian was. Although she didn't wish to catch up to his footsteps, at the very least, she mustn't remain at the same level and should continue moving forward. Only then would her cultivation base not fall too far behind and wouldn't wither away in the future. Naturally, if she could be of some help to him, that would be for the best. She had also put in a lot of effort when she came here, focusing wholeheartedly on pill concoction. Although her talent couldn't be compared to Qin Wentian, after Qin Wentian's meticulous modifications and the baptism of the sacred luminance, she was also someone who had entered the Tiandao Sacred Academy and listened to the Dao lectures there. Even in the unaging immortal mountains, she could still be considered extremely outstanding. But there are a few senior brothers who are doted on by the ancestor. Junior sister, don't you want to consider them? That female smiled. Mo Qingqing shook her head and didn't say anything. That female then spoke, in that case, I won't disturb junior sister any longer. After speaking, she turned and left, arriving at another location where many young men could be seen. Is junior sister Mo not here? A young man asked. Junior sister Mo has an empire-toppling countenance and outstanding talent. However, she looks down on all of you senior brothers and has no time to entertain you all. That female smiled, causing the expressions of the young men here to change. Thinking too highly of yourself. You only want to chat and you actually dare to put on airs. A person coldly snorted and flicked his sleeves as he departed. Mo Qingqing naturally didn't know what happened behind her. She was still staring at the clouds. Extraordinary people were destined to be admired, envied by others. She just didn't care about all of these. It was just that she didn't know how Qin Wentian was doing now. She missed him very much. From the clouds, a handsome face appeared. Mo Qingqing also had a smile on her face that could topple the world. He was so outstanding and would definitely break through to the immortal king realm soon. She had always believed in him. Just like what Mo Qingqing had expected, Qin Wentian was indeed working hard. At this moment, he was sitting cross-legged in a dilapidated palace. Not far away from him, a gigantic long spear was stabbed into the ground. A terrifying aura of destruction permeated the surroundings, enveloping an extremely vast area. With an intention of his will, the destructive energy in the surroundings started to flow according to Qin Wentian's will. After that, the destructive energy flowed towards his body, entering his immortal foundation. At this moment, Qin Wentian suddenly stopped. He opened his eyes, gleaming with sharpness. It's done. I'm only left with the final step. Qin Wentian stood up. His silhouette flashed as he found a spacious area. There were no law attribute auras here to disturb him. Only by doing so would he be able to rely on himself to form a law attribute that belonged to him. There are still a few more months. I hope I can make it in time for the final step. Qin Wentian closed his eyes and sat down, sensing the Tao of heaven and earth in the surroundings. After that, under the control of his immortal sense, the space around him started flowing. His long robes fluttered and there seemed to be a formless flow of energy in this space. It couldn't be seen or touched and could only be sensed. Rumble! He released his astral soul. It was an ancient halberd of destruction. In just an instant, the law attribute energy was unleashed, gradually fusing into his immortal foundation. Although his immortal foundation already had laws, if he wanted to become an immortal king, he had to create his own law domain, astral soul, and body of laws. This was a very long process. Qin Wenyin used his immortal sense to communicate, wanting to form a resonance. The energy in the surroundings flowed unceasingly, as though there was a pattern to it. Gradually, these currents formed a connection with Qin Wenyin, resonating with him. After that, a black-colored current of destruction appeared. Although it was only a trace, it was a huge breakthrough. Qin Wenyin suppressed the excitement in his heart and continued to sense. At this moment, he was only a step away from the immortal king realm. Chapter 1352. One didn't know the flow of time during cultivation. A year passed in the blink of an eye. However, the Qin Wenyin at this moment was still in a state of cultivation, completely unaware of the passage of time. He had already forgotten everything in the external world. The him who was in a state of cultivation knew nothing. At this moment, he was still in the state of cultivation. Not far away from him, the mysterious man was quietly lying there. It was unknown when this mysterious man appeared, but he was just quietly staring at Qin Wenyin. Right now, around Qin Wenyin, destructive qi currents flowed frenziedly, resembling a river of destruction. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the qi currents flowed unceasingly, enveloping this entire space. Qin Wentian's astral soul radiated an extreme destructive light. That ancient halberd astral soul of his flowed with terrifying destructive law energy. On his body, destructive runes also flowed unceasingly. The destructive energy in the surroundings congregated around him. Under the envelopment of his astral soul, the current Qin Wenyin was like a god of destruction, unapproachable. That's enough. A voice abruptly rang out. Qin Wenyin only felt his heart trembling as his cultivation was interrupted. He opened his eyes, feeling somewhat unhappy. He glanced at the mysterious man lying beside him. "Senior, enough. Although you can only be considered a half-step immortal king, I will temporarily consider you as having passed. However, don't be in a hurry to condense your law domain. You should first comprehend the other law attributes. I'll give you a year's time. If you fail to do so, you will still die." The mysterious man calmly spoke. After that, his silhouette vanished. Qin Wenyin was completely dumbfounded. He was somewhat speechless as he cursed in a low voice, "Bastard. Who are you talking about?" A voice suddenly rang out, causing Qin Wentian's heart to tremble. He speechlessly replied, "Senior, I'm cursing myself. Emichim, although you are a little weak, there's no need to belittle yourself too much. If you can survive, you will still be able to survive. There's no need to scold yourself." The mysterious man spoke. Qin Wenyin gritted his teeth in hatred. This fellow has already reached the immortal king realm. Even if he truly comprehended it, he wouldn't be able to break through to the immortal king realm so quickly. Hence, it was basically impossible for Qin Wenyin to gain a year's worth of time. Qin Wenyin could already be considered to have stepped onto the immortal king path, but he still needed time to fully step on it. The other party said that he was only at the half-step immortal king realm and directly interrupted him, giving him a year's worth of time to comprehend other law attributes. "Alright, I'll show you," Qin Wenyin murmured in his heart. He then closed his eyes and cultivated. 3 months later, a powerful suppressive force circulated around his body. The entire space was filled with an extremely tyrannical suppressive force. 4 months later, the sword attribute was formed. In less than 5 months, the demonic attribute was formed. 5.5 months later, the dream attribute was formed. In half a year's time, the strength attribute was completed. For the next half a year, he started to break through to the immortal king realm, allowing himself to truly reach the immortal king realm. He started to condense his body of laws, transforming his body into laws. With just a single thought, his entire person would become the center of the laws, extremely terrifying. Just when Qin Wenyin wanted to solidify his law domain, the mysterious man appeared again. Qin Wenyin stared at the mysterious man with a complacent look on his face. This time, he directly spoke first. How is this junior doing? It can be considered passable. You've comprehended the essence of laws. This is very simple. Understanding one law, understanding all laws. Luckily, you aren't a piece of rotten wood or it would be too boring to keep you around. The mysterious man calmly spoke. Qin Wenyin almost coughed out a mouthful of old blood. He had already done so much, but the other party actually said that it was very simple. However, the eyes of this undying old man were truly sharp. It was as though he could see through how Qin Wenyin cultivated with a single glance. Indeed, after he found the cultivation method, understanding one law, understanding all laws. For some immortal kings, after breaking through to the immortal king realm, they would only rely on a single law attribute to break through. After that, they would need a very long period of time before they would be able to perfectly use all the different law attributes they cultivated to break through to the immortal king realm. Next, you should be able to open your astral gate and condense your seventh astral soul. You can choose your astral soul as you see fit. After you condense your seventh law attribute, you can try out different law domains. The mysterious man calmly spoke. After that he left. Qin Wenyin was speechless. This bastard. However, although he was cursing in his heart, Qin Wenyin still did as the mysterious man said. He continued his closed-door seclusion and opened his seventh astral gate. After that, his perception shot up to the 9 heavenly layers. In the boundless starry space, there were 9 astral rivers. Right now, Qin Wenyian's perception was already extremely powerful. His perception shot up to the 7th heavenly layer. Although he was enduring a terrifying pressure, it was naturally impossible for him to give up. The astral soul he condensed back then was condensed from a constellation in the 8th heavenly layer. Although it was a little rushed, he still succeeded. This time around, he naturally wanted to condense his astral soul into the 8th heavenly layer as well. Bringing along his powerful will, Qin Wenyian's perception rushed up to the 8th heavenly layer. There were even fewer constellations here and they seemed to be very far away from each other. However, when Qin Wenyin neared, the majestic aura radiating from the constellations was sufficient to crush the heavens and earth. Despite the vast distance, the current Qin Wenyin could still sense the law energy from the constellations, as well as the astral domains of the constellations in the surroundings. It seemed that as his cultivation base improved, Qin Wenyian's perception of the constellations grew increasingly stronger. The stronger his cultivation base was, the more he could discover that the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers were all extraordinary, containing inconceivably vast amounts of energy. This time around, Qin Wenyin could roam around the 8th heavenly layer. Although he was enduring a terrifying pressure, he could still endure it. Although he didn't dare to hope for the 9th heavenly layer, he could still choose a constellation in the 8th heavenly layer that was more suitable for him. The constellations here all contained boundless law energy. Although after stepping into the immortal foundation realm, one's astral soul would form an immortal foundation and the power of the astral soul wouldn't be directly manifested during combat, the source of a stellar martial cultivator's strength was their astral soul. Without a powerful astral soul, one's talent would naturally be weaker compared to others. Also, after stepping into the immortal king realm, a powerful astral soul would be bestowed with tyrannical law energy, allowing stellar martial cultivators to have a greater advantage in combat. Qin Wenyian's perception unceasingly floated about, seeing many powerful constellations. Finally, he stopped in front of a constellation exuding an incomparably majestic aura. His perception stared intently at that constellation. That was a supreme devil constellation. The entire constellation was like an incomparably terrifying devil that stood at the peak of the 8th heavenly layer, causing all living beings to prostrate before it. What was even more terrifying was that this constellation seemed to be able to disintegrate before recovering. Within it, a towering amount of devil law energy could be sensed. I've cultivated the devil path and this constellation is indeed compatible with me. In addition, this constellation seems to contain dual law attributes. Right now, Qin Wenyin was no longer a weakling. He had browsed through many ancient scrolls and his understanding was much greater compared to before. he knew that there were some unique constellations that could bestow dual law attributes. Naturally, strictly speaking, it couldn't be considered dual law attributes. However, an astral soul with a dual law attribute would naturally have its own unique abilities. Also, he himself had one. The demon's sovereign astral soul was a demon-attributed astral soul. However, could it bestow summoning abilities? In addition, Qin Wenyan also knew that dual-attributed astral souls were the most commonly seen constellations of demons, devils, and Buddhas. Because these types of constellations were directly attributed to demons, devils, and Buddhas, allowing the cultivator to condense a demon astral soul, a devil astral soul, or a Buddha astral soul. These astral souls were extremely suitable for cultivating the power of demons, devils, and Buddhas. Other than this, they would also have other unique abilities. This terrifying devil constellation, does it still contain the ability to split apart? Qin Wenyan silently mused. If he could form a connection with this constellation, there was a high possibility that other than comprehending devil law energy, it would also bestow him another tyrannical ability. An astral soul from the 8th heavenly layer would surely be incomparably tyrannical. It's worth an attempt. Qin Wenyan's perception was already under immense pressure. After he made his decision, he no longer hesitated and directly sent his perception towards the constellation. This time around, Qin Wenyan still encountered a powerful repulsive force. However, his will wasn't corroded by the devil energy, and he successfully formed a connection with the constellation. An incomparably resplendent devil light cascaded down from the sky, landing on Qin Wenyan, who was cultivating in the forbidden ground. At this instant, the mysterious figure in the ruined city inclined his head and stared at the sky as a terrifying gleam of sharpness flickered in his eyes. Borrowing astral energy to condense an astral soul, Qin Wenyan had long since mastered it. After his astral soul stabilized, Qin Wenyan continued cultivating. The newly condensed astral soul had a weaker attribute energy, and he needed time to consolidate it, allowing it to grow stronger. This time around, he cultivated for an extremely long period of time. The mysterious figure didn't disturb Qin Wenyan again. This time around, he condensed his astral soul in a single breath and forged his devil law body. When the 7 types of law energy circulated around his body, he truly resembled a fiend god, unexcelled in the world. When Qin Wenyan opened his eyes, a terrifying sharpness could be seen flickering within. He inclined his head and stared at the sky as a smile could be seen in his eyes. His fists were clenched tightly as crisp cracking sounds rang out. I didn't expect that I would actually be bestowed with such power. An astral soul from the 8th heavenly layer is truly close to the peak. Qin Wenyan's gaze seemed to be able to pierce through the 9 astral rivers, staring at the sky. His voice was filled with a blazing heat. Before this, he had been in a state of cultivation and didn't have the time to be excited. But now, he finally couldn't control his excitement any longer. Do you think you're invincible just because you have a devil law attribute? A voice drifted over. Qin Wenyan's excitement instantly vanished as his countenance turned black. This undying old bastard, he was always like this, directly extinguishing his excitement. Do you believe that I can destroy you with a single finger? Even your soul would be destroyed, even your corpse wouldn't exist. How can you continue to live? That mysterious figure calmly spoke. You're still too weak. The attribute energy of a cultivator will grow stronger according to their strength. No matter how strong your attribute energy is, what's the use if you are so weak? Qin Wenyan gritted his teeth. He truly wasn't strong enough. If not, he would definitely give that damnable fellow a beating. Chapter 1353. The mysterious man appeared before Qin Wenyan. His long hair touched the ground, resembling a madman from the primordial era. His eyes were extremely sharp as he stared at Qin Wenyan. Next, you can establish your law domain. Figmore. You have seen many things in the Forbidden Grounds, and I'm sure you wouldn't be so shallow as to directly use your law attributes to form your own law domain. I have my own plans. Qin Wenin stared at the mysterious man before him as he impolitely spoke. "What? You dare to speak to me like this after entering the immortal king realm?" That mysterious expert snorted coldly. In an instant, Qin Wenin felt a terrifying might enveloping him. He felt the heavens and earth sealing up as his body was no longer under his control. His expression was extremely ugly to behold as he stared at the mysterious man before him. "It's as easy as flipping my palm to kill you now. I'll give you a year's time and I'll come back again after a year. Don't think that this is enough. If you want to walk out of this place alive, it's still far from enough. If there comes a day when I discover that you are no longer interesting, there's no meaning for you to exist anymore." The mysterious man calmly spoke. After that, his silhouette vanished once more. Qin Wenin didn't even have a chance to retort. His expression was extremely unsightly. The excitement he felt earlier seemed to have been extinguished by a bucket of cold water. With the existence of this mysterious man, it was useless even if he broke through to the immortal emperor realm. He wouldn't be able to win against him at all. Could it be that he really had to be controlled by the devil palms of this place forever? He wouldn't even be able to walk out of this place alive. Right now, it has already been many years since he came out to temper himself. He wondered how the eastern regions were doing. Also, was Qingqing and the others doing well? During these years after the adjudication battle, would the various major powers launch an expedition against the Evergreen Kingdom? Another year. Does this bastard only know that a year is simply not enough? Qin Wenin cursed in a low voice. At his level, a year of cultivation was simply too short. This was especially so now that he wanted to consolidate his foundations. That undying old man only gave him a year each time, causing him to feel that time was extremely tight. Moreover, he didn't know what he wanted to do in a year's time. It definitely wouldn't be anything good. Qin Wenin stood up and released his tyrannical immortal sense. A screen of light circulated around him as his aura changed again, becoming even more extraordinary. This was especially so when he released his immortal sense. He seemed to be in high spirits, like a king of a generation. His immortal sense continued to extend outwards, reaching extremely far away. Every single blade of grass and tree was incomparably clear to him. His vision also grew stronger and he could now see extremely far away. He clenched his fists, feeling incomparably carefree. Law domain. Qin Wenin mumbled. With an intention of his will, a destructive devil might engulfed the surrounding space, transforming into a terrifying law domain of destruction. This space was filled with destructive energy, forming a domain of destruction. Everything within this domain would be destroyed. This was the simplest form of a law domain. However, that undying old man clearly wouldn't be interested in the law domains of ordinary immortal kings. That undying old freak's requirements were extremely high. How could his appetite be satisfied so easily? If he couldn't comprehend anything substantial within a year, it would be extremely difficult for him to enter the eyes of that undying old freak. Law domain. Since I want to establish my own law domain, I have to strengthen myself to the greatest extent possible while suppressing others. Only then would my law domain be able to unleash its greatest effect. Qin Wenin silently mused. Given Qin Wentian's understanding of the martial path, he felt that cultivation was a process of unceasing sublimation. Sublimation of one's cultivation realm, sublimation of one's comprehension, sublimation of one's usage of heavenly energy. For example, at the immortal foundation realm, one would cultivate law energy. In truth, before they even comprehended law energy, they had already comprehended the power of will. Law energy was like the ultimate form of will energy, a type of sublimation. The law domain of the immortal king realm, Qin Wenin also felt that it was a type of energy he had cultivated before. Celestial phenomenon ascendants had their own constellations. It was just that this time around, it was also a type of sublimation. In the past, it was immortal. Now, it was an immortal. Constellations are formed from a single type of energy and can be considered the weakest type of constellation. Only when they fuse and converge their energy would they be the strongest. It's the same for law domains as well. The most ordinary law domain is just a body of laws that directly unleashes the law energy, forming the domain of an immortal king. Within this domain, one's own law energy would be able to unleash the most powerful might. Qin Wendian silently mused. This was the simplest type of law domain, and its might was also the weakest. Usually, for those who just entered the immortal king realm, they would be able to comprehend this type of law domain. But as their cultivation base grew stronger, their comprehension would deepen and the law domains they could form would also grow more terrifying. Back then, senior brother Bai Wuya was able to open his heavenly eye. With the blink of an eye, he could slaughter the heavens and earth, distorting space and law energy, directly destroying Deep Flame's body. Was that because he used a powerful law domain? Qin Wendian mused, recalling the battle between Bai Wuya and Deep Flame back then. That madman wanted me to comprehend a law domain at the very end. Most probably, he wanted me to create the most ordinary law domain. Back then when Qin Wendian was in the Evergreen Immortal Empire, he had fought against many immortal kings before. However, because he was only at the Immortal Foundation realm, those immortal kings he fought against were all ordinary immortal king guards and not geniuses. Hence, with regards to the strength of true geniuses, his knowledge was limited. For everything, he had to depend on himself to comprehend. Qin Wendian once again walked around this dilapidated city. There were many rare ruins here, and he believed that they would be able to give him some insights. Qin Wendian walked and stopped occasionally. He wasn't in a hurry to form a law domain. Instead, he continued to ponder and comprehend. He thought back to the process of him comprehending the immortal king realm, as well as his innate techniques. There were some similarities between them. The comprehension of one's cultivation base and the usage of innate techniques were inseparable, and from a certain perspective, they were interlinked. At the immortal king realm, one could form a body of laws. They could transform the energy of heaven and earth in the surroundings into law energy of their own attributes, causing their laws to be omnipresent in a certain area. The closer the law energy was to the body, the stronger it would be. As for powerful innate techniques, they would be able to activate the laws of their body, allowing them to unleash extremely powerful attacks. In that case, when one's perception and control over runes were strong enough, would they be able to directly form an innate technique law domain, allowing the ordinary law energy in the surroundings to be transformed into terrifying offensive and defensive innate techniques? It was very simple to imagine, but how could it be so easy in reality? God's hand. Qin Wendian first thought of the ultimate art, God's hand. He once saw the Phoenix ancestor unleashing an attack against ancient Emperor Yi. God's hand directly penetrated through boundless space, killing experts who were extremely far away. That kind of might would cause even Buddhas and devils to tremble in fear. But God's hand was still the origin of it. It was activated by the body, and similarly, forming a law domain also required the aid of a body of laws. He could refine his own body of laws to an even more terrifying state, using God's hand to temper it. When Qin Wendian walked, he would occasionally sit down to comprehend. He started to reconstruct his body of laws. His entire body radiated a dazzling light as a divine glow circulated around him, unexcelled in the world. There seemed to be a towering might circulating around him. Also, Qin Wendian clearly wasn't satisfied with just this. God's hand was an all-attribute attack that could be fused into any law attribute, unleashing different types of might. This was a supreme art that was derived from the Battle Saint art and had boundless might. As long as he comprehended enough, he would be able to unleash all sorts of methods. Hence, Qin Wendian wanted to try fusing the law of truth into his attacks. The might of his attacks would surely be terrifying. Qin Wendian started his journey of experimentation, unceasingly comprehending, unceasingly overturning. Back then when he was in the Sacred Academy, he had seen the mirror screen and obtained an extremely powerful divination ability. In addition to the 10,000 laws record, Qin Wendian's comprehension ability was extremely terrifying. It was just that because of how profound one's comprehension ability was, there was no way for him to see it directly. But now, he wanted to create a law domain that belonged to him, and it needed to be extremely powerful. What he needed was comprehension ability. An ordinary law domain was useless to him. It was merely a symbol of an immortal king. A year passed by very quickly. Time passed by too quickly. At his level, a casual cultivation session would require a very long time. A mysterious figure silently appeared beside Qin Wenyin. Right now, Qin Wenyin, who had his eyes closed in cultivation, radiated boundless immortal light. His body was like a divine body of laws as a terrifying aura gushed forth from him. Just this body alone was already unexcelled in the world. Before Qin Wenyin, there was a vast region that transformed into his domain. Countless runes and ancient characters floated in the air, exuding towering devil might as well as a fearsome suppression and destruction attribute energy. Qin Wenyin kept on trying, wanting to see how he could make this law domain his strongest. Also, he wanted to truly create a law domain that belonged to him. He didn't need a long time to unleash such power. If he truly wanted to create a law domain, he would need to unleash such terrifying might with a single thought. The difficulty of this was extremely high. Glancing at Qin Wenyin, this time around, the mysterious figure actually didn't wake Qin Wenyin up. Instead, he spoke, "Your cultivation speed is truly slow. However, this law domain is still passable. There are some small tricks here. After the embryonic form of your law domain is formed, you can go and cultivate it. It's best for you to cultivate it as soon as possible. If not, my temper won't be good." After speaking, he waved his hand and left after tossing out some items. Among the items he casually tossed out, there were dazzling ancient tomes, resplendent treasures, and powerful divine weapons. If these items were to land in the outside world, it would definitely cause an earthquake. Yet, he simply tossed them to the ground, allowing Qin Wenyin to comprehend his law domain and cultivate it. Qin Wenyin heard the mysterious figure's voice. Even if this old freak wanted to speak, it would be hard for him not to hear it. However, he still steadied his heart and continued to immerse himself in his comprehension, trying to reach the most perfect state. Time flowed by quickly. Qin Wenyin just broke through to the immortal king realm, and his cultivation base continued to advance unceasingly, without stopping at all. Chapter 1354. The Dark North Immortal Mountain opened once every 10 years. Right now, it has already been 10 years since the last time Qin Wenyin opened the Dark North Immortal Mountain. Another batch of experts entered the Dark North Immortal Mountain, and this time around, the person in charge was still Baiming Nongyue. The examination has already ended and the experts all entered the mountain. Li Yufeng still didn't leave. This time around, he entered together with Baiming Nongyue. In the Immortal Mountain, on another ancient peak, a strange scene could be seen, attracting the attention of countless cultivators. So it turned out that over there was a maiden that was as beautiful as a poem and as beautiful as a painting. She was currently seated on the ground, playing her zither, creating a marvelous scene. The sound of the zither seemed to be alive, drifting along with the wind. In the air, numerous paintings actually appeared, using the sound of the zither as a brush. This was simply shocking. It's rumored that this maiden is named Jean and is proficient in music. Her thoughts are clear and her comprehension abilities are extraordinary. 10 years ago, she entered here and obtained her Tao. Some of the spectators spoke, feeling shocked in their hearts. In their eyes, Yin had become a legendary character. Sometimes, 10 years was enough to create a legend. The Dark North Immortal Mountain is a mountain of laws, allowing people to gain insights. However, how difficult is it to break through to the Immortal King realm? Although one would have a 10% chance of breaking through here, the number of people who could truly break through to the Immortal King realm is extremely few. Since Fairy Jing could have such good fortune, she must be extraordinary. She herself has an extremely high comprehension abilities, and it's said that after she entered the mountain, she has always been here painting and playing her zither, not moving at all. She should have left after 3 years, but Princess Nongyue couldn't bear to let her leave. Princess Nongyue is there. She seems to be very concerned about Fairy Jing. Someone turned his gaze to Baiming Nongyue. This time around, she entered the Immortal Mountain together with Li Yufeng. The two of them stood together, staring at Yin as they sighed in their hearts. Miss Jean is truly extraordinary. Bai Mingnongyue spoke in a light voice. Yeah, who would have thought that she would be the one to break through to the immortal king realm? This is truly unexpected. Brother Qin's friends are truly extraordinary. Li Yufeng smiled. I haven't found Brother Qin yet, I wonder how he is now. He should have entered the forbidden ground. He is truly capable of doing such a thing. His personality can be seen from his time in Tiandao's Sacred Academy. Is the forbidden grounds really that dangerous? Li Yufeng asked. That's right, saying that there's a 90% chance of dying is an underestimation of how dangerous the forbidden ground is. Bai Mingnongyue was the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. She naturally had a clearer understanding of the dangers of the forbidden ground. That fellow's luck is extremely good. Let's hope he's fine. If not, the immortal realms would lose a character that could affect the entire situation. Li Yufeng faintly spoke. Your evaluation is truly high. Bai Mingnongyue glanced at Li Yufeng. I've always been the one to surpass others and leave them behind. He was able to catch up to me and surpass me. If he doesn't deserve this evaluation, doesn't that mean I'm admitting that my future achievements are limited? Li Yufeng hugged Bai Mingnongyue's waist as he spoke. If that's the case, why should I marry you? So you are praising yourself. Bai Mingnongyue laughed. When do you plan to return? Why should I go back? Li Yufeng asked. What do you want to do? Bai Mingnongyue smiled as she stared at Li Yufeng. Cultivate well and break through to the immortal king realm as soon as possible, bringing a princess wife back to the 100 Refinements sect. I'm sure you would have some face then. Li Yufeng joked, his words causing Bai Mingnongyue to glare at him. Nongyue, you are a princess of the dynasty and should be very familiar with the forbidden ground. Do you know the situation inside? Li Yufeng seriously asked. I know a little. It's said that the place is filled with danger and ordinary immortal kings would all die if they entered. Even immortal emperors have no way to explore the secrets within. You should be very clear about this. Also, that fellow Qin Wenin is only at the immortal foundation realm. Bai Mingnongyue was a little worried. Qin Wenin was too impulsive. Has anyone from your dynasty entered before? Li Yufeng asked again. There are quite a few. In addition, I know of one person who truly entered and exited the forbidden ground. Bai Mingnongyue stared at Li Yufeng. Li Yufeng had a look of curiosity on his face. My elder sister. Bai Mingnongyue replied. At this moment, Qin Wenin was still working hard in his cultivation. He established his first law domain and after that he stopped. Law domains are different from constellations. Law domains can be improved endlessly. As long as you have enough formless energy, you can change your law domain at any time, causing it to grow stronger. Hence, there was no need for him to continue immersing himself in it. He temporarily reached a bottleneck and gave up. For the next few years, he started to cultivate everything the old, undying freak left behind for him. Among them, there was a set of saber arts that contained tyrannical destructive might. If one cultivated it to the extreme, they could even slay gods and devils. There was also a set of movement techniques that were boundlessly marvelous, capable of countless transformations. Even if one didn't cultivate wind attribute law energy, they would still possess terrifying transformations. This movement technique was actually comprehended from the body of the divine Rock King and was similar to the energy Qin Wenin cultivated before. However, it was much stronger and was extremely suitable for him to cultivate. There was a divine weapon that emanated a terrifying aura. The first time Qin Wenin touched it, he instantly tossed it away. At the instant he touched it, he felt as though his soul was being slashed apart. His entire person turned numb and he had no way to control his body. From then on, he didn't dare to touch that divine weapon again. At this moment, Qin Wenin stared at the divine weapon in front of him. It was a cudgel and although its strength was shocking, it looked extremely ordinary. The old, undying freak tossed it here because he wanted me to pick it up. If I can't do it, I'm afraid. Qin Wenin felt his heart trembling when he thought of the old, undying freak's strength. That fellow was simply too powerful. Who knows, he might even be secretly watching him from a corner. Let me try again. Qin Wenyan gritted his teeth. He walked forward and grabbed hold of the cudgel. In just an instant, that terrifying energy blasted into his soul with lightning speed, causing him to lose control of his body. His soul was under attack. It was extremely terrifying to the extreme. No, I can't throw it away. Qin Wenyan's countenance turned incredibly unsightly. He could no longer control his hands and could only hold onto the cudgel. That terrifying energy frenziedly attacked his soul, and this was the first time he felt his soul trembling. It was too terrifying. It felt as though his soul was about to be separated from his body. At this instant, Qin Wenyan felt as though his soul was about to scatter. Was this old, undying freak trying to kill him? At this moment, the figure of the old, undying freak appeared before Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan's eyes flashed with a pleading expression, but the old, undying freak ignored him and directly sat down before him. Qin Wenyan's eyes widened as his body trembled uncontrollably. That old, undying freak was truly watching the show. You don't know this, but this cudgel is a supreme treasure that's extremely rare in the immortal realms. Using it on you is simply a waste of a heavenly treasure. The old, undying freak spoke to Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan felt an impulse to kill the old, undying freak. Didn't the old, undying freak know that Qin Wenyan wasn't in the mood to listen to him? Don't look at me like this. It's already a miracle that you are able to survive until now. I don't even know why I allowed you to come in here and even allowed you to cultivate. To tell you the truth, I've been here for countless years and you are the second person who came here. The first time, it was a beautiful lass who I found very pleasing to the eye. I couldn't bear to see her die in here. She lived up to my expectations and eventually, I sent her out. Qin Wenyan's body was still trembling. How would he care about who came here before? This old, undying freak used a divine weapon to scheme against him. In addition, could it be that this old, undying freak had been alone for too long and had the desire to talk? However, why did he continue to stay here and not exit? Given the strength of this old, undying freak, he should be able to dominate the immortal realms unhindered. Endure a little longer. When you truly feel it, I will help you again. The old, undying freak spoke. Qin Wenyan was in complete despair. He knew that this old, undying freak wouldn't help him at all. After enduring such a terrifying attack, Qin Wenyan could actually gradually sense the existence of his own soul. The soul was an extremely wondrous thing. It complemented the fleshly body. Both were indispensable. For stellar martial cultivators, the vast majority of their cultivation arts and innate techniques were focused on the fleshly body. There weren't many who focused on cultivating their souls. However, if one encountered a powerful soul cultivator, it would be extremely dangerous. Naturally, because they lacked the means to cultivate their souls, such powerful cultivators were extremely rare. Qin Wenyan had never cultivated his soul before. At this moment, he could only passively endure the attack. Luckily, this attack wouldn't directly destroy his soul or he would really die. After enduring for a long time, Qin Wenyan was on the verge of collapse. The old, undying freak was still speaking. In the current world, the souls of cultivators are actually so weak. This is simply incomprehensible. If you were in my era, people like you wouldn't even know how you died. Indeed, the world has changed, the number of worlds has increased, and the number of living beings has increased. However, each generation is weaker than the previous one. Or to put it more accurately, the experts are no longer here. Qin Wenyan felt that he had no way to endure this. But luckily you met me. If you couldn't endure it, even if you died here, there would be no meaning to your cultivation. You would be killed by others sooner or later. You are lucky. The old, undying freak was still speaking. Qin Wenyan could sense that his weak soul was about to separate from his fleshly body. Seems like it's about time. Feel it well. The old, undying freak glanced at Qin Wenyan. After that, his eyes abruptly gleamed with a dazzling light. Get out! A shout rang out. Qin Wenyan's soul trembled as he felt despair. After that, he discovered that he was floating in the air. Something's wrong, his body was still standing on the ground, unmoving. This. Qin Wenyan felt his guts shattering. His eyes were filled with despair. His soul was separated from his fleshly body? The old undying freak glanced at Qin Wenyan. After that, he spoke in a low voice, "You still have some potential. Return." Another shout rang out. Qin Wenyan's soul returned to his body. The divine weapon in his hand was taken away and tossed at his feet. His entire body was trembling uncontrollably as white foam gushed out of his mouth. He had experienced a truly terrifying experience. His eyes stared at the old man before him. What kind of terrifying existence was this old, undying freak exactly? Back then that lass obtained the undying scripture from me. I shall give you the undying scripture then. The old man spoke in a low voice. After that he stretched out his finger and tapped Qin Wenyan's head. In an instant, Qin Wenyan's entire body trembled as his soul shuddered. After that, he directly fainted. AI, how useless. The old man shook his head. When you are able to wield this divine weapon, I will let you out. Chapter 1355. When Qin Wenyan woke up, many pieces of information appeared in his mind, including the words of that old freak. Even though he was unconscious, the voice of that undying freak was still imprinted in his mind. Qin Wenyan cursed that undying freak in his heart. Undying scripture, death scripture? What the hell are these? Qin Wenyan mumbled in his heart. He suddenly thought of those zombies. Could it be that they could revive the dead? This was impossible, it defied logic. Death was death, it was impossible to revive them. Those zombies were merely walking corpses, they had no thoughts of their own. Soul, that undying freak could actually force my soul out of my body and even return it to its original location. Qin Wenyan thought back to his earlier experience as his back was drenched in cold sweat. Even now, he still felt terror in his heart. If the undying freak wanted his life, it would be as easy as flipping his palm. The strength of this undying freak had already surpassed Qin Wenyan's comprehension. Given his current cultivation base, even if immortal emperors wanted to kill him, they wouldn't be able to do so silently. They would have to unleash their strength first. Even for peak-stage immortal emperors, they would have to use the laws of the heavens and earth to deal with him. But this undying freak was able to kill with just a single voice. Even if his soul left his body, he could easily destroy it. This was simply too terrifying. If Qin Wenyan had to describe this undying freak, he would only be able to say that he was unfathomable. Qin Wenyan closed his eyes and calmed his heart to comprehend the undying scripture. Very swiftly, he understood what sort of cultivation art the undying scripture was. It was a soul cultivation art. Although he had never come into contact with a soul cultivation art before, this undying scripture was definitely a supremely terrifying soul cultivation art. There was no one in the world who couldn't die. Regardless of their body or soul, as long as they existed, they could be destroyed. It was just a matter of whether one's strength was sufficient or not. This undying scripture naturally didn't mean that one wouldn't die if they cultivated it. It was just that the terrifying part of the undying scripture was that if one cultivated it to the extreme, even if their body was destroyed, their soul wouldn't be destroyed. In fact, there were many other terrifying effects, such as the ability to reconstruct one's body. Of course, this was not the only use of the undying scripture. It was an extremely perfect soul-type cultivation art. Why do I feel that from the very beginning, I was dragged here by that undying freak as a scheme? Qin Wenyan mumbled. If it wasn't for the undying freak's intentional actions, how could he still be alive now? Maybe it's because my talent is outstanding, unparalleled in the heavens and earth, and the old pervert has taken a fancy to my talent. He doesn't want to enter the world and hopes to find an outstanding successor, so he deliberately makes things difficult for me? Qin Wenyan shamelessly mused. After which, he felt that the possibility of this happening was extremely high. He involuntarily nodded his head. That must be the case. After all, there are too few people like me with such outstanding talent. That old freak must have never met one before. Mitchum, But luckily that undying freak didn't say that he wanted me to join his power and didn't accept me as a disciple. Most probably, he knows his own limits and isn't qualified to be my master. This can't be considered breaking the rules of the heavenly talisman realm. After my cultivation base reaches grand completion, I will find him to settle the debt. Qin Wenyan continued to shamelessly think. If the old freak knew of his shameless thoughts right now, he wondered if he would directly separate his soul from his body. Lowering his head and staring at the divine weapon on the ground, Qin Wenyan felt panic in his heart. His earlier experience was simply too tragic. Right now, he still felt a lingering fear in his heart. Seems like he had to focus on cultivating the undying scripture. If not, the next time he tried to use it, he would definitely suffer a fate worse than death. As he thought of this, Qin Wenyan closed his eyes and calmed his heart. He began to cultivate the undying scripture, starting from the most basic point of comprehending the existence of the soul. Because he had never come into contact with soul cultivation before, his starting speed was extremely slow. Before this, he had never truly sensed the existence of the soul, nor did he pay attention to the connection between the soul and the fleshly body. Only when he grabbed the divine weapon earlier did he truly sense the existence of the soul. The soul residing within the fleshly body was extremely weak. If it left the body, it would be easily destroyed. Once the soul was destroyed, the fleshly body would become a dead body. There was no meaning to it. Hence, the soul of a cultivator would always exist alongside the fleshly body, inseparable. Luckily, Qin Wenyan had a similar experience in the past. In that case, the first step wasn't too difficult. He used a period of time to sense the existence of the soul, knowing where it was and controlling its existence. Only then would he be able to cultivate his soul. Qin Wenyan once again entered a state of oblivion, unaware of the flow of time. Before this, he didn't expect that after he broke through to the immortal king realm, he would continue to cultivate here. After comprehending his law domain, he continued to cultivate his soul. His experiences during this period of time were truly bizarre. Luckily, the old freak already promised him that as long as he could obtain the divine weapon, the old freak would let him leave. This day would eventually come, and at that time, he would be able to leave this forbidden ground. Over 10 years passed by in the blink of an eye. He had no idea what was going on in the outside world. Let's hope that there wasn't a huge commotion. After all, immortal wars between peak powers were a very long process. Before there was an extremely strong provocation, emperor-ranked battles wouldn't erupt. Back then, the Skymist Alliance felt that victory was already in their grasp and directly suppressed the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Now, both sides had already reached a certain level of strength and didn't dare to act recklessly. This time around, his cultivation speed was the slowest. Even when he broke through to the immortal king realm and comprehended his law domain, it wasn't so slow. After all, the cultivation of energy was something that could be traced. It was a sublimation of one's strength. However, the cultivation of the soul was like starting from a blank piece of paper. This was extremely difficult. The undying scripture was something that complemented the other unique ability of his seventh astral soul. He had to comprehend it well, as it would surely be of great use to him in the future. As he cultivated, Qin Wenyan's soul energy grew stronger and stronger. In the end, he was able to allow his soul to leave his body and even caused his soul to shine with corporeal light. This was simply shocking. It was unknown how many times stronger his soul was compared to before he started cultivating the undying scripture. Finally, one day, after many failures, Qin Wenyan finally picked up the divine weapon and held it firmly. Although his soul was still shaken greatly, he was already able to reduce the impact to the minimum. The figure of the undying old freak appeared. He stared at Qin Wenyan and shook his head. "You actually used such a long time. How disappointing, too weak. If I knew this would happen, I would have set a time limit for you." The moment Qin Wenyan saw this undying old freak, he felt his blood boiling as he gritted his teeth in hatred. "But, do you have any objections?" The voice of the undying old freak turned cold. In an instant, Qin Wenyan felt his soul trembling. How would Junior dare? "AI, it's good that you know you don't dare to." After cultivating here for so many years, your strength has improved greatly. This is all because of me. I don't need you to feel grateful. Just accompany me here for 8 to 10 years and chat with me before you leave." The words of the undying old freak instantly caused Qin Wentian's eyes to roll back. He almost collapsed to the ground, foaming at the mouth. This. Qin Wentian wanted to die. Stay here with this undying old freak for 8 to 10 years? Chet. Even if he didn't die, he would go crazy. However, if this undying old freak really had such thoughts, the pitiful Qin Wentian basically had no strength to resist. Not willing. The undying old freak combed his long hair, revealing a pair of eyes and a pale old face. He stared at Qin Wentian. "Do you know how many people want to see me but are rejected? For countless years, I've only seen you and that little lass, yet you are still unwilling to stay with me? If you accompany me for 8 to 10 more years, your cultivation base would definitely improve." Qin Wentian's gaze flickered. He suddenly wavered. If he could really improve his strength, he could consider sacrificing himself. "Don't even think about it. Right now, even if you beg me to stay here, I won't agree." Scram, scram. The undying old freak waved his hand. Instantly, Qin Wentian felt his body rising uncontrollably into the air. His speed was inconceivably fast, as though he was shuttling through space. Terrifying gusts of wind whistled through the air. Boom! Qin Wentian's body directly slammed into the ground, creating a large crater. He cursed in a low voice as his silhouette flickered and leaped out of the crater, his eyes narrowing as he stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian stared ahead. He actually returned to the place where he entered the Forbidden Ground, the periphery of the Dark North Immortal Mountain. That undying old freak waved his hand and blasted him back. This undying old freak was too monstrous. Without any warning, Qin Wentian was blasted back. Those guards glanced at Qin Wentian as their gazes abruptly froze. Qin Wentian had actually returned. Wasn't he one of those who entered the Forbidden Ground tens of years ago? He actually managed to come back alive? An Immortal Foundation expert, he entered the Forbidden Ground and didn't die? Qin Wentian didn't care about their strange gazes. He stared in the direction of the Forbidden Ground as he sighed in his heart. After a moment of silence, Qin Wentian bowed in the direction of the Forbidden Ground as he silently mused, "Old freak, I hope you can wait until I have enough strength to enter the Forbidden Ground again. At that time, I will definitely fight a great battle against you." After bowing for a long time, he stood up. After that, he elegantly turned and walked towards the exit of the Dark North Immortal Mountain. His silhouette flickered. Qin Wentian's speed was extremely fast, passing through the mountains one after another. After that, he came to the peak of a mountain and stared at a figure before him. This figure quietly sat on the mountain, playing a zither. The melody contained a feeling of longing, as though the person playing the zither had always been waiting for someone. Qin Wentian quietly stood there, staring at the beautiful melody as a faint smile could be seen on his face. He didn't expect that for this trip to the Immortal Mountains, he would be together with him. Both of them broke through to the Immortal King realm. This was truly a stroke of good fortune. The zither melody continued on unceasingly until it naturally came to an end. Only then did the melody gradually dissipate. Jean's beautiful eyes opened as a radiant smile could be seen. She stared at Qin Wentian. "I knew you would return. Hence, I have been waiting here for you." "Why did you wait for me?" Qin Wentian shook his head and smiled. "Since we came together, we will naturally leave together." Jean spoke in a light voice. Her reason was extremely simple, yet it seemed to be very logical. "Let's go." Qin Wentian smiled. After that, Jean stood up and the two of them walked side by side, heading towards the exit. Outside the Dark North Immortal Mountain, there was an expert who saw Jean and Qin Wentian coming out. After that, he couldn't help but to be startled. After that, he spoke, "The two of you, Princess Nongyue has given the order. If the two of you come out, immediately inform her. Princess Nongyue will personally come over." "Princess is too polite." Qin Wentian smiled. He stared at Jin. "In that case, let's wait here for Baiming Nongyue." Jean nodded. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.